It is a good morning indeed. Happy Monday. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome in the Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. I hope that you had just the absolute most spectacular of weekends. What a spectacular sports weekend it was. We had a whack-doodle NFL Sunday yesterday. We're going to get into that, obviously. We had a phenomenal college football Saturday. We're going to get into that. We had a phenomenal weekend, if you're getting into it yet, a phenomenal weekend of NBA basketball. The World Series, as it should be, split a game apiece, 1 and 2. Game 1 goes to the Toronto Blue Jays. Game 2 back the other direction to the LA Dodgers. And now we get set for Game 3 in Los Angeles, California. We're going to get to that coming up later on. NASCAR's Final Four is set. And I do want to talk a little bit of racing on the radio program today. I do want to get into the NASCAR Final Four in just a little while. But I really do want to ask a question. And the question is, what, if anything, can NASCAR do to get some screen time during football season? Because I actually did watch a solid chunk of the race yesterday. But I also recognize that even as a NASCAR guy, even as a NASCAR fan, whose love and respect for the institution has only elevated since I moved here to what is considered NASCAR country, it has grown immensely. And a big part of the reason why is I have been able to, in a way that I was not able to do back when I was in Florida and the butthole of America, et cetera, et cetera. That's Jacksonville for those of you that are new to the show. I never really had the opportunity to dive into the history of the sport the way that I think the sport deserves to be looked at by fans. And since I've moved here, that's happened for me. I've gotten the opportunity to really go a little bit deeper into NASCAR lore, if you may let me use a nerd term for just a moment. And my love of the game has drastically increased since I got here. But I also made the realization yesterday as I sat in the bro cave and I had football on that TV and then on that TV and then that TV. And then I had the NASCAR race was split screen on the small TV. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, NASCAR is hitting its pinnacle. It's hitting its zenith. We are picking out a Final Four. William Byron, by the way, gets in. And I've got it relegated. I, a NASCAR guy, have it relegated to like the 6th screen in my bro cave. And I was sitting there having the thought of, this is the problem for NASCAR. NASCAR is not in a bad spot. At the end of the day, and I think a lot of NASCAR fans recognize and realize this, at the end of the day, NASCAR, for now, is a niche sport. It is a sport that if you love it, you love it. And if you don't love it, it doesn't even register for you. But we've also, over the past couple of years, are starting to see. I'll get there. Are starting to see.
Are you sure you actually got there?
I'm not sure that I did. I think I did, but I'm not 100% sure. We have started to see, there it is, some outside influences, major names, Michael Jordan, Alvin Kamara, start to get invested in NASCAR. But I've also made the realization that with a couple of rare exceptions, and this part I don't know how to fix or if it can, with a couple of rare exceptions, those guys who have gotten invested and have stayed invested aren't really in the limelight all that much. They're not really brought up. I'm watching Sunday night. I'm watching NFL football last night, and they are mentioning in games that the NBA on NBC is going to have a conversation with Michael Jordan. Remember this offseason, there was this big discussion because when the NBA goes back to NBC, Michael Jordan is going to be involved. And we were all like, oh, okay, cool. But they never really told us the role. And it turns out all they're doing with Mike is having these like 10-minute interview sit-down conversations with Mike, and they're just getting his general thoughts on things, right? Like the next one, I don't know if they did it last night or if it's coming up this week, but they're going to have a sit-down 10-minute conversation with Michael Jordan, and from what I understand, the entire conversation is going to be about load management. Like, we're 4 years, 5 years into the discussion about load management. I mean, I guess to some degree, we all care what Michael Jordan has to say about it. But on the other hand, do we really care what Michael Jordan has to say about it? When the man stepped away from basketball 2 decades ago, like, do we really care? So here's this guy, Michael Jordan, that commands such gravitas when he gets the opportunity to speak, that the NBA on NBC had this huge deal. They're paying him tens of millions of dollars to sit down with Mike Tirico and do like a 10-minute interview a couple of times a week. NASCAR's got that in the back pocket. He's an owner. Now, in fairness, Michael Jordan does have a kind of a huge lawsuit going on against NASCAR right now. So it, I guess to some degree, makes sense that NASCAR doesn't really want to promote a guy who is suing them and trying to either A, blow up the structure of the sport it is, or B, potentially get a competing motorsport system off the ground. So I want to talk about that later on in the show. What can, if anything, NASCAR do to gain some screen time at the most important part of their season? Or would NASCAR, and I don't think that this is a thing, but would NASCAR ever get to the point where they think, maybe we should change the calendar a little bit? Maybe we should flip the calendar on its head. Maybe the NASCAR championship should be awarded during football's offseason. Maybe the majority of the races, regular season races, should be run around. Granted, NASCAR can't really be a winter sport. It's not optimized for that. So is there another plausible situation or scenario out there? I don't know. We're going to talk about that later in the show. We got to talk college football. AP poll is out. The Buckeyes stay at number 1. The Hoosiers gain a little ground at number 2. Now the Aggies remain at number 3, but they have gained some ground on both Indiana and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Numbers 1 through 6 unchanged from last week. Everybody's still slotted in the same spot. 7, 8, 9, and 10 all moving around a little bit, and we do have a 2-way tie at number 10 in the AP poll. Notre Dame all the way now up to number 12, though the 11th team, but 12 if you include the you get what I'm saying. Notre Dame back in the mix for a playoff spot.
How close are we to the one that matters?
November 4th. So effectively, we are looking at a week and a day. Yeah.
Cool.
Next Tuesday is the first playoff poll, which makes theoretically this week's AP poll and specifically next week's AP poll, which will of course drop a week from yesterday. And then the College Football Playoff Committee voters will have 2 days to analyze the weekend, analyze the AP poll, and decide how they're going to shake up, how they're going to list out the playoff bracket, or at least the playoff standings, a week from tomorrow. So we'll get into that a little bit later on the show. Brian Kelly out at LSU after they get hammered at the house on Saturday. Unsurprising to me. In fact, I was having a conversation on Saturday with a cousin of mine, who lived down in the bayou. And we were having a conversation about this game on Saturday, to which I said, I'm picking Texas A&M in the outright win. I'm picking A&M in the outright win. And I'm also going to say, if he loses to Texas A&M at home at night, Brian Kelly will not make it to Monday. Forget firing him in the middle of next week. He will not make it to Monday. LSU's going on the bye. They will want to give that team as much time as they can get, working under whoever will be named the interim coach. That's exactly what happened. They take the L at the crib to Texas A&M. Look, it is one thing to go on the road and lose to Vanderbilt, especially in a year where Vanderbilt's a good football team. It's one thing to lose on the road at Vanderbilt. It's another thing to lose a nighttime game at Death Valley against a team that over the past couple of years isn't really a rival, but kind of is. It's kind of a baby rivalry. It's kind of the way that it's a rivalry, the way that Kentucky, South Carolina's kind of become a rivalry. Like, it's not a rivalry, but if you're really invested, it's kind of a rivalry. To not just lose that game, to get B-slapped at your own crib at night. LSU takes pride in home night games. It's their thing. They don't play day games in Death Valley for a reason. And to drop a night game at the crib to a team that has kind of developed into a bit of a baby rivalry, that's unacceptable to LSU fans. And Brian Kelly just found that out. $54+ million buyout for a guy who wins 9 games a year, has gotten nothing in the trophy case since she showed up 4 years ago. In fact, the only thing I kind of laughed at this because I was reading an article about the firing of Kelly yesterday, and they were like, well, in year number 1, he won an SEC Western Division title. I was like, oh, you remember that? You remember West and Eastern Division titles in the SEC? That was fun. That was a good time in college football. That's all he's got. He won the West, and then the West went away, so we couldn't even do that anymore. But Brian Kelly, relieved of his duties at LSU, ended up with a 31-13 record, won less than 71% of his games during his time at LSU. But he's coming off $54 million. Now, that's fun for 2 reasons. Number 1, LSU got to reach into the piggy bank a little bit to pay him out. And number 2, I had to laugh because that is still not as much as Florida State owes Mike Norvell if they were to buy him out right now. And it's not by much. It's a $2 million difference. If you include the assistant coaches that will have to get bought out, the assumption is LSU is going to be coming off around 70, Florida State coming off around $72 million. And the kind of the driving factor, the fun thought for me here is, does that not give you, to some degree, does that not give you a bit of an interesting look at how college football financials are going to operate from this point moving forward?
Well, at least we now know who the next coach of Penn State's going to be.
Dude, that is a conversation that was going on yesterday. Because you know what I said to a friend of mine? Tell me if this is a bad take or a bad metaphor or whatever. I went too far. I said yesterday, because a dear friend of mine and friend of the show who still lives in the area, buddy named Mark, big Penn State guy. And we were texting back and forth yesterday after Brian Kelly got relieved of his duties. And I said, hey, congrats on your new head coach. And he said, would I really hate that? He seems more like, his words, not mine, he seems more like a Big Ten guy anyway. And I said, yeah, you know why you'd hate it? Because you would be going from James Franklin to James Franklin, but he's kind of an a-hole. Like, is that the thing you want? Do you want to go to a guy who, by the way, has won less and accomplished less than James Franklin, who you would probably have to pay more? And oh, by the way, you'd have to give him a James Franklin salary while until 2031, you're paying James Franklin. Do you want to go from a guy who is James Franklin, but a worse and kind of a butthole version of him when you still got to pay James Franklin for being James Franklin? I don't know.
Has Kelly ever won a big game?
Brian Kelly, I don't believe has ever won a big game, at least not one that
Notre
jumps
Dame?
off the page.
He didn't win a big game at Notre Dame?
All I remember at Notre Dame is he got a kid killed, never apologized for it, and then just left because he didn't want to deal with it anymore. Like, that's a thing that happened. He got told, you can't put that kid up there. It's not safe. The kid went up there. It wasn't safe. And then when it happened, he and this was kind of the Brian Kelly way. Anybody who's followed this guy, if you don't believe me, they're all on YouTube. Go listen to a Brian Kelly press conference literally at any point. Brian Kelly is the most, when things go great, it's amazing how great I am. And when things go bad, it's the fault of everybody else around me. And it has been that way his entire coaching tenure. He is the most you guy when things are bad and the most me guy when things go great. And it's always been that way. Like when he got hired at LSU, back in 2022, I very much remember Notre Dame fans being glad that he was gone. And I would also like to point out that since he left Notre Dame, what has happened since then? Notre Dame's been in the mix for, maybe not one, but has been in the mix for national championships almost every year since then. In the mix for.
I don't know. I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? They're in the playoffs every year.
I don't know if they've improved that much since he left. They still haven't done anything.
Again, if the only thing you look at is trophies in the trophy case, you are correct. They have not won a natty. But if I ask you right now who's been more successful since 2022, Notre Dame or LSU, the answer is Notre Dame. That's not a question. That's a statement.
It is Notre Dame. You're right.
Yeah, that's a statement. So they are better since he left. Remember, he left there because he said, and this is what I'm talking about. This is why I've never been a Brian Kelly guy. It started with the way he left. It started with everything at Notre Dame, but then it got worse when he left Notre Dame because remember, when he left Notre Dame and he went down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, what was his alleged, but he said it into a microphone, what was his rationale for leaving Notre Dame? His entire take was, they don't have the resources to win a national championship here, which is the dumbest thing anybody's ever said. Notre Dame has, I would argue, more resources than anyone else in college football. More. They get more money out of their TV contract than anybody else gets in the game. They get the money that everybody else, like every other conference gets, and they get to keep all of their playoff money and all their appearances.
What are their academic standards? I'm guessing they'll be a lot higher.
They are high, but at the same time, like, okay, it's not any higher than a lot of other schools that have found ways to compete. Like it's not, here's what I'm going to say. You don't have to be an Ivy Leaguer to get accepted to play Notre Dame football. It's high, but it's not confounding. It's not like, oh, we'll never win because we got a bunch of doofuses with taped together thick rim glasses and pencil protectors in their pockets. Like they got talent, man. They got Jeremiah Love. They got talent. So the reality is, Brian Kelly is the definition of it's always somebody else's fault. And it always has been. It's always been somebody else. Again, this game against Texas A&M, I'm watching this offense look absolutely terrible and inept. And what does he do? He blames Garrett Nussmeier. And don't get me wrong, Garrett Nussmeier hasn't lived up to expectations. But, and we're going to come to this here in a minute, but I look at Garrett Nussmeier not living up to his expectations the way that I've looked at Lenora Sellers not living up to his. Is it on the QB? Not if you've got two working eyeballs and a TV set. It's very clearly not. So he pulls Garrett Nussmeier out of the game against A&M, and I thought Nussmeier was going to punch Brian Kelly in the face, and that's illustrative. That is an absolute picture painting of Brian Kelly's team's attitude towards him. They got nothing for him. I'm watching the clip right now. Nussmeier walks right by him. He's shaking his head. Kelly tries to tap him on the shoulder. He pulls away from him, throws his helmet at the ground. And here's my favorite thing, just to kind of put it all into perspective for you. When Malik Neighbors was a wide receiver at LSU, him and the kid down in Jacksonville, Brian Thomas Jr., were both there. And that was, to me, the most talented set of two wide receivers that any college football team has had. They've had some great tandems at Ohio State. They've had some great tandems at Oregon. The best 1-2 punch of all time was Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas at LSU. And yesterday, when this news got announced, Malik Neighbors put on his Instagram story the funniest thing maybe the funniest social media post of all time. So Malik Neighbors puts up a POV video, like it's from his point of view. And the video is him walking outside in his pajama pants and slippers, and he's holding a handful of pebbles. And he drops them, and he kicks them. He literally said, "Kick rocks, dog." Like, that's the funniest thing I've ever seen. Because everybody, at least that is an LSU fan, believes with that tandem of receivers and running backs that they had when Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas and co were there under Brian Kelly, that was a national championship squad. At least to participate or get very close, and they didn't come anywhere close to it. Malik Neighbors, and Malik's kind of been a hothead since he showed up. He's kind of that next in a long line of diva wide receivers. I've given Malik Neighbors some hell since he showed up in New York, but I saw that yesterday. I started laughing my ass off. I'm like, that's the funniest thing anybody's ever posted. My dude literally posted kick rocks. Like, he literally kicked rocks, telling Brian Kelly kick rocks. That's the relationship for a school that, you know how we always talk about Clemson and the fact that you can go to any game in Death Valley any given Saturday, and there's always a horde of NFL alumni who have come back to be there and be part of that program. And Dabo Swinney's kind of leaned on that. That's always been LSU, and it's not that way because Brian Kelly has pushed the alum away. He's like, we don't want you here. We don't want you to do anything with this program. And now he's got LSU alum who are beloved by the fan base who would want to be there and participate and grow in the program, telling him to literally kick rocks. It's incredible. All right, when we come back, we got a lot to get to from the weekend. All right, when we come back, though, I believe America needs more unifying moments, more moments where everybody's on the same page. We don't have a lot of those. We had one yesterday, and I want to talk about it next. Rob Brown, the Great Malonzo, The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Joe, good morning, brother. We are talking about that next because, yes, ouch. And yes, the coaching carousel is not about to be crazy. It's already crazy. And we don't even have coaches out there using these firings for leverage for money yet. You think Lane Kiffin's not gonna make this even more dicey? You don't think some of the coaches that have what's his name, Jimmy Sexton, as their agents aren't going to be floating some rumors? The only one that I've seen anything shut down is the rumors last week that Steve Sarkisian was looking to go to the NFL, and Sark went off yesterday about that. Said straight up it's a lie, and the media covering it was embarrassing to the media. I'm like, I mean, I get it. All right, stay right there, guys. We'll be right back. We are, unfortunately, right now, whether you like it or not, a nation that is relatively split. We are a nation that politics seems to be expanding its appearance into more and more places where it never has before. It's like you can't go outside and walk around without there being some sort of debate. And unfortunately, we have hit a point where civil discourse is frowned upon. It's all about debate me, bro, all the time. It's just everything's got to be an argument. And that, to me, is not a good thing. I don't like that. I don't want it to be that way, which means we need to find unifying spots. We need to find places that we, as a nation, can all be on the same page. We need to find somewhere that we as a nation can all agree on something and utilize that as our common foundation, that we can say, you and I may disagree on X, Y, and Z, but on this one thing, we're all in the same boat. So now that we have once again reminded ourselves that we are all human beings, that we are all Americans, and that at the end of the day, common interest and compromise is what will drive us forward, we need more unifying spots. And I recognized yesterday that we had one, and I hope that we keep it. And that unifying force is Cam Skattebo. I, yesterday, was out watching football in public with the lady. We took the dogs out to the dog park yesterday, to a dog bar yesterday, so that the dogs could go get some outside time, get some running, get some exercising, and we could sit down and watch some football together. So we went out for the 1 o'clock games because the Saints didn't play until 4:25. We went out for the 1 o'clock games. And while we were watching football, I saw the injury to Cam Skattebo, which if you've not seen the injury, please don't go watch it. It's horrific. It's horrifying. Cam Skattebo had a dislocated ankle. Effectively, it was so bad that, and I don't know how to describe it without it being graphic, if you see a picture of it, because unfortunately, one made its way into my eyeballs yesterday. Cam Skattebo's dislocated ankle was so severe that you could see where his leg bone, what's the bottom one where the shin is? I don't remember which one it is. I haven't done biology in years.
Femur,
anatomy.
something?
No, I think femur's the thigh. So that's tibula, fibula. That's the bottom one, right? I think so. Doesn't matter, whichever. The leg bone's in the bottom, the shin bone. You could see where the bone ended because his ankle was out and over and facing the wrong direction. It was, when I say horrific, I mean it was grotesque. And that in and of itself, if you have followed this show or my social media for any length of time, I'm a big Cam Skattebo guy. And I had no, I didn't make that a secret. And there is a large group of buddies of mine from all different perspectives and walks of life. I've got a Panthers fan. We all know president of the Greenville Triumph, Chris Lewis. He's a Giants fan. I've got a dear friend of mine who's a Steelers fan. I'm a Saints guy. All fans of different NFL teams, all Cam Skattebo guys. Because Cam Skattebo is just that lovable, psychopathic, kind of classy. You know what he is? He's from Revenge of the Nerds. What was Ox? Was that what they called the big dumb guy in Revenge of the Nerds?
No, that was Stripes.
Yeah, whatever his name was.
You talking about John Candy and Stripes?
No. I'm talking about the football player. Nerds.
Oh, that was Ogre.
Ogre, yeah. All right. So that dude, that's Cam Skattebo in real life. Like, he's just that guy. He is a psychopath. There was a video that I saw before the injury because half of my social media reels right now that get shared between the boys, there's 3 types of reels that get shared between the fellas, all right? There's unobtainable, attractive women. There's professional wrestling. And there's football clips. And most of the football clips have been Cam Skattebo. Like, most of them have just been Cam Skattebo. There was a clip that came across my feed from earlier in the season for the G-Men, where Skattebo, and I think it was the Eagles game from 2 weeks ago, where Cam Skattebo caught a touchdown and he gets across the goal line. And you can see there's a defender who's like 3 yards deep in the end zone. And Skattebo crosses into the end zone and then accelerates to go hit that guy. Y'all, he's got the ball. He's not on defense. He's got the ball. He accelerates after he has scored a touchdown. You know, the end of a play, the best possible end of a play. Skattebo scores a tutty and then accelerates into the end zone to go hit another guy. Like, this guy loves contact. He's a classic football player. And when you combine that with who he is away from the field as a player, just a lunatic. When you combine that with the fact that we've heard so far, and fingers crossed, there's no bad pub about this guy, right? Like, there's no bad media about this guy And I hope it stays that way forever. But there's been none. He's just a football dude who loves footballing and not much else. And then you combine that with the broship, the bromance that he has with Jackson Dart, the new quarterback for the G-Men. The constant, they don't say hello, they don't high five, they headbutt each other all the time. Like they're just bros. And to see that develop for the Giants has been so, I don't even know what the word is. Like there's a what's it called? A fission is the sense of emotion. I think it's frisson. I think it's called frisson. There's a word that describes that sense of emotion that kicks in as a human being when you see something that just makes you go, dude, life's cool sometimes, man. You know what I mean? Like, life's cool sometimes. And Cam Skattebo and Jackson Dart are the, like, bro version of that. Just that absolute frisson where you see these dudes being absolute cavemen on the football field, and it's like, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Because Rob Brown has always been, I'm a player safety guy. I salute guys like Josh Dobbs who wear the Guardian cap in game. I'm like, good for you. That dude's making a long time life decision, and he's willing to get made fun of it for it. Coming up later on in the show, I'm going to play the audio. The Jets finally get a win this weekend, and Justin Fields got brutally vulnerable and emotional behind the podium talking about the win. And I loved it for him. And I'm going to celebrate him and crap on Woody Johnson because of it later on in the show. Love that. When Cam Skattebo went down with that dislocated ankle, which was, again, just gruesome to watch, to see the reaction from the rest of the Giants, including Jackson Dart. And this part I loved. Jackson Dart went over to Cam when he was on the cart, about to get carted off the field. And he is, if he's not crying, he's on the verge of tears watching his bro get carted off the field. And Cam, as he's high-fiving everybody else, calls Jackson Dart over. Jackson Dart goes over. And what does Cam do in that moment? He leans forward to give Jackson Dart one last headbutt before he's got to go to the hospital to find out how bad the injury is. And the answer is real bad. Real bad. Like, he's done for this year. And at this point, from what I've read, he might be fortunate to make it back in time for a camp next year. That's how bad it was. So I get on social media. I'm at the dog bar. We're watching this. I see this happen. I get 2 or 3 texts from some of my, what I am now referring to as Cam Scatterbros of, dude, no, the football gods can't take this guy from us. Like, no, we were just getting into a groove with Cam Skattebo. And I get on social media because I didn't see it happen in real time. I just saw the carting off and the players all gathering around him, whatever. And so I get on social media, and obviously the entire Rob Brown social media sphere is just Cam Skattebo. It's just everybody reacting. And what I recognized and realized is there were people in my circle who only talk about their team. And there were people in my circle who are diehards of their squad and don't care. There were people in my circle who are. And I think this is the exclamation point on this point. I have buddies of mine in my circle who are Eagles fans and Cowboys fans, NFC East rivals of the New York Giants, and everybody in the Rob Brown sphere, which is full of sports hot takes from all over the spectrum. Everybody in the Rob Brown sphere yesterday was lamenting the loss of Cam Skattebo. Like, no, this guy was fun. This guy was fun. We're going to have a fight coming up here in a little while because I think I have changed my entire opinion and perspective on the tush push. I think it does need to get banned now because of what happened yesterday, and we're going to talk about that. I got some thoughts on the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, last week, we had some thoughts about the Gamecocks that I will answer for in the next segment. Something that I believe Lonzo's been salivating for since 6:00 this morning.
It's the only reason why I'm here, dude.
He's not joking, by the way. I'm going to get to all that. A lot of takes from a lot of different parts of the sports spectrum. Yesterday, Cam Skattebo going down had everybody from around that entire spectrum of the Rob Brown averse Sad. I am heartbroken for this dude because this dude was finding his stride. The G-men were thriving because of it. And America finally had a jumping off place where we went, you know what? I hate your team. You hate my team. I hate your quarterback. You hate my quarterback. I hate your politics. I hate this. I hate that. I hate this. I hate that. Cam Skattebo was the one thing happening in America that we could all get behind. And we lost him yesterday. America, I think all of us, regardless of your political opinion, your faith, your background, your sexual lifestyle, whatever, I think all of us should recognize and realize that we ought to hold hands, gather around the campfire, and sing Kumbaya and use Cam Skattebo as our inspiration for a unifying point in American history. In 100, 150, 200 years, when historians look back and they go, America was as divided in 2025 as it had been since the Civil War, and one man brought us all back from the brink. One man unified this country once again. We should all say credit to Cam Skattebo. Gamecock fans, I answer for my wasn't incorrect, but you're still mad at me take next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right. Jacob, good morning, brother. Patrick, Joe, welcome in, everybody. I'll stay right there. We'll be right back. South Carolina fans, I had some words for you on Friday. I said you should find something better to do with your time. I said that watching this game would be a waste of a Saturday. I said that I thought that Alabama was going to run you up out your own building on Saturday afternoon. I went so far as to say that Alabama minus 11.5 was my best bet of the weekend. It wasn't. Alabama scores a touchdown late in the game. South Carolina has an opportunity in the very end of the game to work a wonder and pull off perhaps one of the greatest Cocktober surprises in the history of Cocktober surprises. Does not happen, unfortunately, down the stretch. Alabama gets the 29-22 win. Now, I want to say a few things. The first one is one that I know is going to get you riled up, and that's okay. Everything, with one exception, that I said, if South Carolina is going to make this a game, not win it, make it a game, they have to do, they did. They did. The most pleasing thing about this game, and so that we are all clear, I watched it. I sat down on the couch with the lady. We watched this game because I thought to myself, hey, man, I said a bunch of things that I go, this has been wrong, and this has been wrong, and this has been wrong, and this has been wrong. And if all these things go differently in this game, all right, that's a different game. That's a different world than what I expect can happen. And I think, with one exception, all of those things went right. I said first and foremost, and this is not just for this game, this is something that Rob Brown has been harping on for weeks now. Number one, please do not make me live in a world where Lenora Sellers is playing the Tom Brady offense, where he's just taking a snap and he's sitting in the pocket and he's waiting for long pass plays to develop behind that offensive line. Please do something with the kid. Take advantage of the talent of Lenora Sellers. They absolutely did that in this game. I watch, because when I've been watching South Carolina, when the ball is snapped, my eyes don't go to Lenora Sellers. My eyes go to the offensive line, because that has been the vulnerability for this football team. And the offensive line was a different unit in this game. And I don't think it was because they had some great Sean Elliott motivation and they came out and were just different. It was a different scheme for this offensive line. I saw pulling guards and tackles. I saw a lot of motion out of slot backs and tight ends and wing backs to create different blocking angles that I had not seen this year. In fact, I pointed out in the first quarter of the game, one of the things that I liked, how many snaps did South Carolina have a sixth blocker, but it was not traditional? How many times did they have a sixth blocker where it was a wingback who went in motion, or a fullback who was playing up and off angle from Lenora Sellers? How many times did I see a wingback, but he was inside the tackle? They were throwing an extra blocker one step off the offensive line between the guard and the tackle. And then they weren't having those guys just block straight ahead. There was, in the fourth quarter, one play in particular that I was very happy with. They brought a man in motion from the slot on the right side over to the left-hand side, had him run past the edge rusher, set into the slot on that side, but he was still facing towards the sideline set. Lenora snaps, and that guy, 180s, wheels it back around and blocks down on the edge rusher. The offensive tackle pulls around him, moves up around that blocker that cracked down on the edge rusher, gets up to the second level, and goes and attacks the linebacker. And instead of having Lenora Sellers just walk over to the left looking for a man, he just took off. It was effectively a well-done RPO on the move. So you have the slot blocker in motion, go past the edge rusher, which, unless the edge rusher is just on his game, in a spot like that, the edge rusher sees him move out into the slot. His goal is still, I got to get up the field against this tackle. The slot receiver then blocks on the edge. The tackle chips him into him, then gets around to the outside to take on the linebacker, built a wall, but then they said, Lenoris, get on your horse and go. Get over to that side of the ball. And if the cornerback steps up to prevent the run, you got a little finesse pass over the top. And if he steps back to take away the pass, then run the damn ball. Lenore Sellers had 18 carries in this game. And I would argue that probably 10 to 12 of those were designed for him, and not just, hey, block Lenore's go, but designed to give him blocks to the edge, to the outside. The second thing I pointed out was, and I thought that this is just true of this football team in every game. Can my guys off the edge create an edge? Which was not something South Carolina's been doing despite the immense talent they have at the defensive end spots. Can you set an edge? Because Ty Simpson, not the biggest, not the fastest guy, but if he gets to the edge and outside, you're cooked, man, because he's efficient and accurate with the football, and he's got good enough wheels to make something happen. The defensive ends in this game, and when they were double-teamed, the linebackers in this game set edges. They made Alabama play from inside the pocket. It was exactly what you needed. It was Shula finally, and I hope it shifts. I hope it stays this way. I hope you look at this game and you go, oh, damn, that worked. We should try that again. It was a completely different offensive set of play calls. Completely different. In fact, I kept waiting on a couple of the third and shorts. I kept waiting for, let's run ISO off center again. Let's run ISO off guard again. And they did once or twice because I think you've got to keep linebackers honest. But the run game for South Carolina was not off center, off guard ISOs. There were blocking schemes. There were pulls. There were crackdowns. Like, it was a lot of looks that we did not see in some of the other losses that have come down the pipe. So you made it a game by specifically doing, and I will say specifically doing 3 or 4 things that I said on Friday. If you want to make it a game, do these things. And there is but, and I mean this, there is but one thing that kept you from winning this game. You had about 4 dropped interceptions. 2 of them that I recall were, and it's going to happen. This isn't like a, oh, you big dummies moment. This is going to happen. But at least 2 of them, including one in the end zone that would have taken an Alabama field goal. I believe it was a field goal on that drive off the board, where 2 defenders made a play on the ball and they defended each other from coming up with a pick. It happens. It's going to happen, especially if you got guys who are just killing it. And if you've rattled a quarterback, as I believe you did, Ty Simpson. This is a Heisman guy. And keep in mind, his Heisman, I saw the word Heisman moment used about Ty Simpson. The Heisman moment was leading a game-winning drive down the football field to beat now 3-5 South Carolina. This is how well you played. Ty Simpson's game-winning drive in the end of the fourth quarter is being called his Heisman moment. That's how well you played in this game. Your offense looked different. Lenoris was actually used as a guy who's got legs with an arm, as opposed to an arm who occasionally uses his legs. An offensive line that was outmanned at the point of attack every game so far. And don't tell me I'm wrong about that. You've watched it. This is why that was the 5th different starting offensive line rotation in 8 games. You have changed your start, and it's not all because of injury. So you had a different set of offensive line blocking schemes. You took advantage of the talent of Lenoris. It opened up the field for your running backs to make something happen. And again, you didn't even really rely on the run that much. Lenoris had 18 carries for 67 yards. When I say the run, I mean the running backs. Matt Fuller had 12 carries. And by the way, how many of those carries were, I know there were at least 2 jet sweeps. I know there was at least 1 counter off tackle. So I'm talking about at least a quarter of the carries of Matt Fuller they weren't runs. They were gadget plays to take advantage of what he brings to the table. Good. We haven't seen that all year. That has been my primary point of contention with Shula is I don't think you're play calling to the strengths of your offense. This is what I mean when I have said, don't make your players fit into your scheme. Make your scheme fit your players. This game, it looked like the scheme fit the players for the very first time. So when we asked the question, we had Dre call the show on Friday. I remember the call very well because he gave me his laundry list. Well, if Shula does this, and if Lenoris does this, and if Stewart does this, and if Willie B is this, that, and the other. And I said, cool, man, like I agree with you, except for you played 7 football games and none of those things have happened. Why should I expect them to suddenly change in game number 8? Well, they did. There is only one thing that I was wrong about, and it was Willie B. Willie B was absolutely electric.
You were wrong about a bunch of things.
I just gave you 10 minutes. What was I wrong about?
You started off saying you were wrong about the score. So that's 2 things right there. So you just saying you were only wrong about one thing. You started off saying you were wrong about what the score is going to be. So that's 2 things.
I said the score unless these things happen.
I love.
Did I or did I not say those things?
That's that talk radio caveat.
Yes, that's how conversation works.
If this happens, then this will happen. It's not going to, but then you forget the part that you said it's not going to. And then suddenly you're like, well, I told you how they could do it. Dude, you were wrong. It's okay to come in and say you were wrong.
Correct. I opened the segment by saying that.
You were absolutely wrong, and that's okay. And I'm glad you were wrong. And I'm glad that the Gamecocks came out and played like they should. And if you listened to Rob's advice and didn't watch that game, yeah, you're heartbroken at the end, but you got to see a glimpse of what that team could do if they played up to their potential. And I thought that was an amazing thing, and it was so good. And it was even mentioned on the broadcast about how loud it was after you said there's no way it could be loud. And you're wrong about a bunch of things, and it's okay to come on and say, hey, I was wrong. I mean, it's okay. It's all right. I'm wrong all the time.
So
this sounds like a Mark Ryan defense, and I came in for something else, and I think you just give me this because I should have stayed at home. I'm really sick, but I came in because I wanted to hear you say you were wrong.
Okay, then let me say it. I was wrong about 2 things. Number 1, I was wrong about Willie B. That place was absolutely electric, and I'm going to give you credit for that because it could have not been. That place was absolutely electrifying. It was brought up multiple times throughout a non-biased national broadcast. I was wrong about Willie B. That place was absolutely electric. That's what I want that stadium to be every game. And the second thing I said, which includes everything else I talked about, was when I said, here's all the ways you'll beat Alabama, or at least make it a game, but this won't happen. It did happen. All the things I said.
You didn't put any money on that game, did you?
I absolutely did.
You put money on that game and lost.
I put Bama minus 11.5.
Good. I'm glad you lost.
Absolutely.
I hope you lost a lot of money.
Again, Lonzo, like you make it sound like I weasel my way. When I'm wrong, and I call a spade a spade. I put money on the game. You want to know how I really feel? Ask me what I bet on any individual game. I had not a huge chunk, but I absolutely told my wife, got in trouble for it. Bet against the Gamecocks this weekend because I didn't think there was a chance. I said, here's all the things.
I wish I could have seen the look that she gave you for the entire game until the end. I've seen the look before, so I can picture it, and deservedly so.
If looks could kill, this show would be broadcasting live for my funeral. All right? Like, I went into Friday, or through Friday's show, I said, here's the things that South Carolina itemized 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here are the things that need to be different than the 7 other games that have happened so far if you want to make it a game. And almost every one of them was correct. And now scratch that. They were all right. Every one of them was right. What I said that was wrong was this isn't going to happen. I have no reason to believe after 7 games that the Tigers going to change its stripes for game number 8. And they did. They did. So now my question mark moving forward to the next round of SEC ranked team games is going to be, do you maintain that, or do you go back to what you were doing beforehand? If you maintain what you did against Alabama, you can beat Ole Miss. I don't think you can beat A&M, but you can beat Clemson. If you do that, you can win 3 more games and get yourself to bowl eligible if you play the way you played. More importantly, if you play call the way you play called against Alabama. You win more games. The only thing I said was wrong was none of this is going to happen. It all happened. But I gave you the list of what can happen, and it happened, and you made it an interesting game. You take 1 or 2 picks back that you dropped, you win the football game. That's what it is.
Wow.
All right. I mean, again,
wow.
What am I saying that is lunatic?
I never said lunatic. You did.
We'll talk more about this coming up later on in the show. Water cooler cheat sheet up next. Jon Blau at 8:40 will tell us how the Clemson Tigers spent their bye week getting ready for Duke. All that and more coming up is the Monday edition of the Rob Brown Show rolls on. This is the Fan Upstate. This is a Sports Flash. I forgot. It's 7 o'clock already.
No, you just didn't want to intro me. Anyway, Carolina Panthers win streak ended in a brutal fashion, a 40-9 loss to the Bills. Andy Dalton, so bad, replaced the injured Bryce Young, going 15 of 24 for 175 yards and 1 pick. And there was fumbles. It's bad. Josh Allen attempted just 19 passes, completing a dozen for 163 yards and 1 touchdown. The day belonged to James Cook, who ran 19 times for 216 yards and 2 touchdowns in the win. Can we find a defense? No, we cannot. The new AP poll is out, and Ohio State stays at number 1. Indiana is number 2. Texas A&M stays at 3. Alabama, Georgia, and Oregon all remain in spots 4 through 6, followed by Ole Miss, Georgia Tech, and Vanderbilt at 7 through 9. BYU and Miami are tied at 10, 1 spot ahead of Notre Dame. The World Series heads back to Los Angeles tonight for Game 3 after the Dodgers and Blue Jays split the 2 games in Toronto. The Jays will go with 41-year-old Max Scherzer, as the Dodgers will counter with Tyler Glasnow. First pitch is at 8 p.m. thing. Sorry.
Lonzo said the words butt breathing into my ear holes during the break. And, I planned and assumed that Lonzo was going to come in here today ready to dunk on me about my South Carolina take. And that's fine. Deserved, expected. I'll argue around it later on in the show. I'm not upset about that. I am upset about the fact that by the end of this day, the phrase butt breathing will be in my Google history. That will be something that if I died tomorrow.
2 T's and butt.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
That is something that if I get hit by a bus and leave this mortal plane today, whoever is the first person to go look at my internet search history, please don't. Whoever is the first person to go look at my internet search history is going to see that the last thing that I Googled before I moved on to whatever comes after this existence was the phrase butt with 2 T's breathing. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. That's how you kick off an hour here on the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate rolling through, and actually a Monday where we overreact to the overreactions of the weekend. And we're going to get back to that coming up in a little while because we have obviously games 1 and 2 of the World Series in the books. Game 3 this evening back in Los Angeles, California. We're going to talk about that. The NASCAR Final Four is set. We will get into that coming up a little bit later on in the show. The AP poll is officially dropped and out. LSU is fired Brian Kelly. Cooper Flagg looked like a real NBA player over the weekend. Cam Skattebo is done for the year, hopefully not longer. We're going to talk about that because Cam Skattebo became a unifying force for good in America, and we lost him this weekend. And I want to get into that later on in the show. It is a busy, actually Monday. So let me tell you how you can be a part of it because I do want your thoughts, opinions, reactions from the weekend. 844-326-3663. First and foremost, call that number, get on the air. I am looking for reaction from the Gamecocks fans. I am looking forward to expectations from the Clemson fans. Jon Blau will be joining us in a little over an hour and a half. We'll figure out how they spent the bye week and the expectations for this team heading into a contest this weekend against the Duke Blue Devils. Obviously, the rest of college football as a whole, the NFL, whatever you want to get to, 844-326-3663. You can also text that number, 844-FANFONE. That is the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. Text that number. I will read it and react to it on the air. If you are on the social media, toss me a follow at The Rob Brown Show. That is Facebook. That is Instagram. That is Twitter/X at The Rob Brown Show, and interact with me there. It can be a tweet, a Facebook post, a DM, an Instagram reply, whatever you want to get to at The Rob Brown Show. Give me a follow, and I will respond to your takes there. And, of course, if you've got something a little more long format, you can hit me up at rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. rob.brown@thefanupstate.com if you want to shoot me an email. If you got a take that's maybe a little bit longer than a phone call or a text, that's the way to do that. All of that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to what we came here to do. That is, of course, the weekend in sports at large as a whole. You got to know what's going on so that when you get to the office this AM, you can talk about it. Worry not, my dear friends. That is why it's 7 o'clock every morning. We do this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying,
"Shut the hell up,"
even before they take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
It is the water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 sports stories you need to know before you get to the office and start talking sports. This beautiful, no, it's not beautiful. It's gross outside. This ugly ass Monday morning. Listen, you go in, it's rainy, it's gross, it's nasty outside. You don't want to be at work. You avoid work like we all do, responsible adults, but talking about sports. And this is what you'll need to know. Item number 1. Your AP Top 25 poll hath dropped for week number 10, and the Ohio State Buckeyes will hang on to the number one spot in the country. Their 7-0 record has earned them 54 first-place votes. However, the gap from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 is shrinking. The Indiana Hoosiers drop a 50 burger, 59 points this weekend. They pick up a couple of first-place votes at number 2. That's where they were last week. It's where they stay this week now with 11 first-place votes. They did not get the dozen because one of those first-place votes went to the Texas A&M Aggies up at number 3. They do get their first-place vote on the season after they go to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and knock off LSU and get Brian Kelly fired. We'll come to that later on in the show. Texas A&M now has a stranglehold baby on number 3. Alabama is going to be at number 4, Georgia 5, Oregon 6. Those 3 teams do not move positions. They will hold on to spots 4, 5, and 6. It is at number 7 where we have our first move. Ole Miss up a spot after they go get an impressive and definitive win against the Oklahoma Sooners, 34-26. Georgia Tech drops down a spot. Georgia Tech now at number 8 in the AP poll. The Ramblin' Wreck of Georgia Tech has a few more days before their next contest when they take on NC State on the road. Vanderbilt slides up a spot to number 9. 7-1 now are the Vanderbilt Commodores as they knock off the Mizzou Tigers. That's a good Mizzou team. This is a quality win for Vandy. They are awarded by a slide up a spot in the polls. Now Vandy gets ready for their next road test next weekend when they go take on Texas, who needed everything they could find to slip by Mississippi State this weekend. After Vanderbilt, a two-way tie at number 10 between BYU and Miami. Both have 1,069 nice points to tie at number 10. It is then Notre Dame at number 12, as I told you after their win in week 3. I still think this is a playoff team. They are climbing the rankings. They were 12 last week. They stay 12 this week. But Notre Dame inching their way towards next Tuesday's first college football playoff poll. The problem for Notre Dame, they don't really have anything left on the schedule. At BC, back home for Navy, on the road at a decent Pitt team, back home for Syracuse, and then at Stanford. They're going to have to win some games by 35, 42 plus points in order to really solidify a spot in the top 12, but they are on the way. Texas Tech will jump up one spot to number 13. The Red Raiders knocked off and blanked Oklahoma State in order to pull that off. Tennessee up 3 spots to number 14. How about the Virginia Cavaliers? This was a team that ACC Media Days was largely written off. They escape North Carolina. Thought Hoodie might get his first conference win, but Virginia wins another one and move up to number 15. Louisville, another ACC squad, up 3 spots. Cincinnati, the Bearcats, move up 4 to number 17. Oklahoma, after loss numero dos, this time to Ole Miss, drops 5 down to 18. Mizzou, after the loss to Vandy, 4 spots down to number 19. The Longhorns of Texas, the aforementioned, now at 6-2. At number 20, up 2 spots in the poll. Michigan at 6-2 raises 4 spots to number 21. Last week, Houston, USC, Utah, and Memphis were all unranked. This week, Houston, USC, Utah, and Memphis are 22, 3, 4, and 5, respectively. Of course, Memphis with a ranked win over South Florida gets them into the poll. My group of 5 playoff participant Navy is number 26, just outside. Tulane, Washington, Iowa, South Florida, San Diego State, LSU, James Madison, North Texas, Illinois, and Pittsburgh all received at least 1 vote in the AP poll. South Florida, LSU, Illinois, and Arizona State are the teams dropped from the AP top 25. Let's get to item number 2. A wild Sunday in NFL football. A lot of results that were expected, some very much not. Unexpected. I didn't think the Saints would beat the Bucs. They beat the brakes off the Saints, did the Buccaneers 23-3. Miami gets win number 2, and they do it on the road at the Atlanta Falcons. Of course, the Falcons were in kind of a weird spot in this game as Drake London was unavailable. Kirk Cousins got the start for Atlanta, so missing QB1 and wide receiver 1, still getting drummed in your own crib by the 1-6 Falcons. Bad look for Atlanta. The Jets get win number 1 on the season, 39-38 over the Bengals. The Patriots blow out the Browns. The Eagles get right against the G-Men. Of course, Skattebo goes down. And I think I became team ban the tush push after this game. I'll tell you why coming up here in just a few minutes. The Ravens blow out the Bears even without Lamar Jackson. The Texans get the better of the 49ers. The Broncos smoke the Dallas Cowboys. The Colts, no surprise here, knock off the 1-7 Titans. And last night, the Steelers, 35-25 losers to the Green Bay Packers. But it was the game that took place right up the road in Charlotte, North Carolina, that was maybe one of the most interesting. No Bryce Young, big problems for the Panthers.
You go with interesting? That's the word to describe what we saw yesterday?
Mainly because we thought, even with Andy Dalton back there, the run game for Carolina should at least be able to keep Josh Allen on the sideline. Here's the thing. Josh Allen only needed to throw the ball 19. Actually, he didn't even need to throw it 19, but he completes just 12 passes, 163 yards, and a touchdown. The issue for me was the belief that Carolina's run defense, which it improved the last couple of weeks, would be able to, along with a run offense for the Panthers, at least slow down the Bills enough to make this a game. Nope. James Cook III, 19 carries, 216 yards, and a pair of touchdowns on the ground, including a 64-yarder. Through the air, Khalil Shakir, 88 yards on 6 catches for a touchdown. Nobody else for Buffalo had more than 30 receiving yards in this game. Andy Dalton, 16 of 24 for 175 and a pick. It was the run game that we expected to be.
Hey, who's the third string quarterback?
Does it really matter?
How bad is he?
Does it really matter?
No. How bad is the third string quarterback? Andy looked like he needs to retire, man. That was ugly.
I mean, I feel like we probably knew that before
but
the
this
season started.
I felt bad for the team because he was out there. It looked really, I can't, it's indescribable how bad he looked. It was so bad.
He looked like a backup quarterback. I mean,
no, he looked worse than the backup quarterback. He looked like the guy that they just pulled off the street because the first 3 quarterbacks ahead of him all got hurt.
The Red Rifle, 16 of 24, a $175 and a pick, a 70 QB rating, a QBR of 4.2, which I believe is the lowest we've seen so far this season. Rico Dowdle, 8 totes, 54 yards. Chuba Hubbard, a dozen carries for 34 yards and the lone touchdown on the day. Tedero McMillan still showing up, 7 grabs, 99 yards. Jalen Coker back into the mix, 3 for 36. Xavier Legette, 2 catches for 17 yards on the day. Just nothing cooking at the crib for the Carolina Panthers. Be intrigued on Friday to get Rashad Beard's thoughts on this one. I assume a lot of them will sound like beeps and whistles for the most part. Carolina blasted at the crib by the Buffalo Bills. But as we pointed out last week, and I said this to Rashad, the Bills are 8-0 coming off the bye and have scored more points coming off the bye in that time span than any other team in the NFL. They are good after a bye week. Unfortunately for Carolina, the defense of the BOA just not there. So Carolina falls to 4-4 on the season. Let's get to item number 3. A couple of results for you over the weekend. We will start and in that let me try all of that again. A couple of results for you over the weekend. We'll start in NASCAR, where William Byron hit the bumper to Ryan Blaney to steal the dub at Martinsville in the 3rd round finale of the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. Byron made a winning move with 43 laps remaining, able to take the bottom lane away from Blaney, pushing him up the track with a tag to the left rear. The Hendrick Motorsport driver would then lead the rest of the way, would fend off Blaney on a restart with 11 left to play. Byron led a race high 304 of the 500 laps. It is his 3rd victory this season in the number 24 Chevrolet. It was the first win in 11 races since August at Iowa for Byron, who won the regular season championship despite a 6-month drought after opening the year with a 2nd consecutive Daytona 500 victory. Last year, he had 1 top 5 finish in the previous 8 playoff races, opened the 3rd round with a 36th at Las Vegas Motor Speedway and a 25th at Talladega left him in a win-or-else position to make his third consecutive championship 4 appearance, delivered with his 16th career Cup victory, his first in a playoff elimination race, and his third win at Martinsville. Ryan Blaney was also in a must-win situation to advance to the championship round, trying to win his third consecutive playoff race at Martinsville, came up one spot short despite qualifying 31st and leading 177 laps. Ryan Blaney said, quote, "That's just 2 guys going for it. I don't blame him for taking that. I would have done the same thing. I knew it was going to be tight. I tried to crowd him as much as I could. Just proud of the effort from the team." Kyle Larson captured the final championship eligible berth in the season finale with a 4th place finish, put him at 7 points ahead of Christopher Bell, who checked in 7th. Had he dropped back a spot or Bell moved up a spot, we would have had a different championship 4. But it is set. It is locked in. Byron, Larson, Hamlin, Briscoe in the title round November 2nd at Phoenix Raceway, where the championship will be awarded to the driver with the best finish of the 4, who are split evenly. 2 Joe Gibbs Racing guys, 2 Hendrick Motorsports guys. We'll see how that plays out. Along with Bell and Blaney, third place finisher Chase Elliott and defending series champion Joey Logano were also eliminated from that race. Over in the world of baseball, the Blue Jays exploded in game number 1. Barger, Varsho, Kirk all had dongs in this game. They routed the Dodgers in the opener Friday night. 11-4 was your final. In game number 2, the Dodgers get it back, a 5-1 finish in favor of the Bronx Bombers, who now play in LA. You know what I'm talking about. It was Yamamoto who got the win. Another complete game. 9 innings, 4 hits, 1 run allowed. K'd 8 through 9. Kevin Gausman took to the bump for Toronto. Really not an awful night. 6.24 hits, 3 runs, K'd 6 in his effort before he turned the ball over to Varland, Hoffman, and Fisher. Varland would give up a couple of runs to create the difference for the Dodgers. Toronto could not find their way back in. That sets up this evening's Game 3. We are now back in Los Angeles, California, IA. This evening, we will see the 41-year-old Max Scherzer gets the ball for the Blue Jays at the crib. The Dodgers will counter with Tyler Glasnow. These 2 guys have been electric in their outing so far in the postseason. Now, Scherzer has not seen much action, but you go back to that game against Seattle that he appeared in, the 8-2 win that forced a Game 7. In that game, Max Scherzer, 5.2 innings, gave up 3 hits and 2 runs, K'd 5 through that time. He came in as relief. He will get the nod tonight. On the flip side, Glasnow has been just overall spectacular through these playoffs. 13.2 innings pitched. He has given up a total of 7 hits, 1 run, and is K'd 8 through those innings. Not a guy who's going to get a lot of Ks, but a guy that is going to have a lot of ground out balls. Game number 2 tonight in the World Series. First pitch, 8 p.m. on Fox. Now, when we come back, we got a lot of football that we still need to talk. We got to talk about the rest of the results in the top 25. I want to talk a little bit more about what went right for the Gamecocks that made it a game against Alabama, and what I think was the one thing that kept them from finishing that game and getting a dub. We'll get to that. As we mentioned, in about an hour and 20 minutes, Jon Blau with the Post and Courier will tell us how Clemson spent the bye week getting ready for Duke. The NFL was wild yesterday. What the hell, Carolina Panthers? We're going to get to all of that. But when we come back, I have a question about baseball and a question about NASCAR. A question about NASCAR and a statement about baseball that leads to the same question. And even if you're not a fan of both, I think you can have input in this conversation. We'll have that conversation when we come back. I'm Rob Brown, the Great Lonzo on the ones and twos. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate.
I will.
All right, guys, when we're live, stay right there. I'll get your thoughts when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Dudes, thanks for hanging in there. Let's see. Yes, that was it. That was it. And I don't know if Elliott and Beamer were in on it. I don't know if Shula opened up the bag. I don't know what happened, but whatever happened, it needs to stay happening. Will we beat Clemson?
Except for the entire game. Yeah.
Yes. Will we beat Clemson play this at this point? That's all I care about. Jacob, honestly, I think the answer to that is yes, but we also need to see what Clemson looks like coming off the bye. If South Carolina was able to change enough that they can look like that, Clemson's got the dogs that they can change something and do the same thing. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll talk about that later on in the show. I have a question. Rob Brown is both a NASCAR fan and a baseball fan. I mean, I'm a sports fan. I like all the sports, but love NASCAR, love baseball. Yesterday afternoon, I was sitting in the bro cave with the wifey while she was playing her phone games. Robbie B was watching some sports. And I had the NASCAR race on. However, even as someone who genuinely likes and enjoys NASCAR, I had the NASCAR game on the sixth screen in the bro cave. I had a bunch of NFL games on. I had a baseball pod that I was listening to, the video version of it on another screen. I had NASCAR on the last screen in the bro cave. And it clicked about halfway through that race that this is a point in time that if you're a NASCAR fan, you should have that on the bigger screen, right? Like I should have had that on the bigger screen. And I didn't. And it got me thinking, why? Like why in a race that was going to determine which four racers would be competing for the season championship in Phoenix next week, why would I, somebody who likes NASCAR, have that on the small screen? And the answer for that was, outside of someone's got to win a trophy, there really isn't a lot compelling about NASCAR, unfortunately for me. There's just not. And this isn't going to, before anybody jumps the gun and thinks this is going to be another old guy, you should let him fight again take, as it has been in years gone by. It's not. The reality is, as much as I'm fine with that in NASCAR, fine with bringing back rivalries where guys are getting put into the wall if they overstep in a certain race. Hey, man, payback's coming, and it may be 2, 3, 5, 10 races from now, but payback is coming. I'm fine with that. It's not compelling to me because NASCAR's done a wonderful job of stepping back the competitiveness of racing. I'm not talking about racing to the checkered flag. I'm saying the competitiveness in terms of guys that are willing to throw their season away to try to win this one race. This is why I've said I'm in favor of going back to a championship format where week by week points are earned. We keep a season-long score running, and whoever has the most points at the end of the year wins this thing. And I think there should be big boost for wins, big boost for whatever you want to give a boost for. But let's get back to that. Because I think the current format has created a world where here I am watching an eliminator race. There are 8 guys competing for 4 spots, and 7 of them have a legitimate chance to move on. All of them have a chance to move on. 6 of the guys competing for the last 2 spots have the chance to move on with a win, which made the run between Blaney and William Byron. Neither one of those guys were going to get through on points in this race. It was win or your season is over. What hooked me back into the race was that down the stretch was the last 50 laps where the 2 guys that must have a win to move on are car to car into and out of every turn. And 47 left to go. William Byron tags the back left of Ryan Blaney, moves him out of the way. Blaney, we're waiting. Is he going to be able to return that tag? And no. William Byron drove a great final 47 laps, including a restart on 11 to go to grab that spot. So there was a moment of heavy competition in that race that made it compelling to me. And I started paying attention to it. But again, it came with 47 laps left to go in the final of the 8-2-4 eliminator. how do we make it more compelling? How do we make it more tense? Now, again, my solution is let's go back to the old way of every race, an X amount of points is available. And look, it has in years gone by. The argument is, in years gone by, has created a world where you get to the last race or two of the season, and we already know who the winner is. We go into the final race, sometimes the final two races, and somebody has such a mathematical advantage that nobody else can take the trophy from them. And I get that that makes the last race or two less compelling. But here's the thing. I don't want to say the playoffs at large have been uncompelling, but even for a NASCAR fan like me, I haven't gone out of my way to watch them. It's more been I'm flipping YouTube TV to see which football games I want to put on which TVs in the Bro Cave, and it's like, oh, yeah, that's right, NASCAR's on. And that includes last week at Talladega. In the regular season, the races at Talladega and Daytona are must-watch races for me. For some reason, a playoff race, not for some reason, football is the reason. But a race at Talladega, which is a playoff race, didn't register to me until there were like 100 laps left to go. And I'm like, oh, crap, that's right, that's on. It needs to be made more compelling. Because even if you get to a spot where the final race or two is irrelevant because the champ's already been crowned, what it does is the last 7 or 8 races that have been happening while football's on, which have been completely uncompelling in the grand scheme of things, now those races are more compelling. Because you're going, all right, this guy's got a 120-point lead. If somebody has 2 great races in them through these last 6, now all of the sudden, now it's interesting. Now it's compelling again. How do we make this interesting? Now, I had another moment like this. I've actually had 2 of them in baseball so far in this postseason. And I want to be very clear. Last year's postseason in Major League Baseball was as electric of a postseason as I can remember in sports, like at large. Last season's baseball postseason, as a baseball fan, was as good of a postseason in any sport as I can remember. This year's has been very good. Probably not as compelling as last year's, but still very good. But there were 2 spots in this postseason for Major League Baseball that kind of drove me a little bit crazy. Those 2 spots were in Game 7 of the ALCS between Seattle and Toronto, and in Game 2 of the World Series between LA and Toronto in Toronto. I want to start with what I'm about to say by saying something personal and sentimental, because I need it to set up what I'm about to say, lest I be called a heartless beehole. I lost my father to cancer when I was 25 years old. Cancer awareness, research, massively important to me. It is a cause that I donate money to annually. It is a cause that I donate time to when given the opportunity. Cancer research, prevention, development of, fingers crossed, one day a cure, massively important to me. It is probably the numero uno philanthropy in my life. Now, Game 2. We are in the, bottom 5. We get to the end, and we do the MasterCard Stand Up to Cancer, it's a baseball initiative that goes on around the year. Cool, fine, great. This is where I might sound heartless. That's not the spot for that, man. Do that pre-game, because what you have is a game that is still very much in the air. And what makes baseball, college and pro to me, for me subjectively, what makes baseball the best postseason in sport is that you have so many games, and every one of them has an opportunity to create tension that is so thick and so palpable that fans of not the teams playing can be sucked into it. And that was a moment we had between the Dodgers and the Jays, and then we have this moment. And I don't even know if I'd be against the moment if it was like 30 seconds, we're in, we're out, except for they just have to keep reminding us that this is sponsored by MasterCard, 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 MasterCard. And then when we get to the end of Stand Up to Cancer, and even that, I think I'd be like, all right, like feels like a bad time to put this. There's no halftime show in baseball. Not a great time for this. Then after that MasterCard Stand Up to Cancer moment is done, we get, now let's go out to right field for a live performance from the Jonas Brothers. So in a moment, 5 innings into a baseball game, a championship, a World Series, a game that is very tense, a game where the home team already has a 1-game lead, but they're in a hole. The pitcher for the LA Dodgers is now 5 innings deep. His stuff's starting to get a little out of control. This is the moment that the Jays should be able to strike. In that moment, when the tension of this baseball game should be astronomically high, in that moment, at that spot, we get a live performance of 3 minutes from the Jonas Brothers. Really? Baseball? Like, I get it. At the end of the day, we are the product, not baseball. We all say the product. We're not, the baseball's not the product. We're the product. Baseball's sale is not baseball to us. Baseball does everything in its power to get us watching. Why? So that they can sell our eyeballs to all the sponsors that pay $1 bazillion to have their commercials play in the World Series. I get it. There was also Game 6 of the ALCS. Very similar situation. The stadium is packed. It is loud. It is vibing. The Blue Jays are a few outs away from going to the World Series for the first time since 1993. Here comes George Springer, known for his postseason heroics, stepping up to the dish. Big moment in baseball. And what did they do? They cut to a commercial with the audio that is over the top of the game itself. And in a moment where George Springer is standing at the dish and the stadium is swelling in emotion and anxiety, you don't get the audio of that. You don't get to hear it. And much like the Jonas Brothers right this moment, they ruin a good thing unnecessarily. It doesn't need to be. The Jonas Brothers don't need to be playing right now. There's no need. They don't add anything to the show, yet here they are. And what are they doing? They're taking away from what you've tuned in to listen to, just like they took away from the most tense moment of the postseason so far in that inning when I'm waiting for the Dodgers and the Jays to get back out there and see if we can cut this tension with a friggin' knife. Instead, we got to go out to right field and listen to the Jonas Brothers. And even if the Jonas Brothers did have a place to play a live song in sports, do you think the baseball demographic is big on the Jonas Brothers? Do you think the baseball demo made up of dudes like me is like, hell yeah, brother? I'm glad that we're going to take 2.5 minutes out of what has been an incredible back and forth baseball game that has so much tension in the air that I can float on top of it. I'm glad we're taking 2.5 minutes to go out the right field and listen to the damn Jonas Brothers. Baseball. What are we doing? How did you, when I'm sitting here screaming at NASCAR, you guys need to find a way to make your sport more compelling so that somebody that is like me and wants to watch it and wants to bring people into it has a better way of doing that. In a moment where baseball is the most compelling that it has been all season long, they decide the right way to capitalize on that is to play a 2.5-minute Jonas Brothers concert. Who the hell are making these decisions in sports? Who are these suits? Because you're making things worse, not better. All right, enjoy like 10 more seconds of the Jonas Brothers. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Roy, I'm going to do an actual World Series breakdown for Game 3 coming up later in the show, so don't go anywhere. Everybody, don't go anywhere. All right, before I move on to something else, I want to clarify something from the last segment. My complaint was not that the Jonas Brothers played. You could have put anybody in that spot. Lonzo asked me during the break, he's like, would you have had the same gas if it was Chris Stapleton? I love Chris Stapleton. He's one of my favorite performing artists of today.
He did say an artist that guys like me would listen to.
Yeah.
So that's why that made me think that you had someone in mind.
And that's fair because I did put it that way. Now, it would not have been different for me had it been an artist that I actually liked, had it been Stapleton or somebody.
So you said if Creed came out there.
I'd have had the same gas this morning.
All right.
Listen, I love Creed. There's never a bad time for a Creed song, but yes, there is. And it's that moment. It's when the game is tense. And I came up with the example of that would be for football. Because Tiger Pal Rachel just texted the show and said, I hate all the mini concerts in the middle of sporting events except the Super Bowl. That's not why I'm watching, except for there's a defined break in the game at the Super Bowl, right? Like when, Bad Bunny comes out to do the halftime show at the Super Bowl, you're not going to kill the momentum of one team or the other for that concert. Like that's in a defined break that has a length of time to it. There is a defined break between innings. But the defined break lasts as long as it takes for one team to get off the field, the other team to get on it, the pitcher to throw 5 or 7 warm-up pitches, and then we're off. Like, it's a minute and a half, 2 minutes top end before we play the next round of baseball. And even if you were going to do a concert, why would you stack the 2-minute sentimental stand up to cancer moment there and then give us a 2.5-minute Jonas Brothers concert? That was like an 8-minute break between innings at a point where the Jays were trying to rally to climb back into a game that, had they gone and won, take a 2-0 lead back to LA, and that changes the entire series. Now it's best of 5, and the Dodgers have home field advantage through the rest of the run. So it's a different game. It's a different world. It's a defined break with length to it in football versus in baseball where it's a break, but it is a very short break that is just about turning the field over, and then we're off to the next one. So it doesn't matter if it was the Jonas Brothers or anybody else. The only point I was making about that is not only did you give me a 2.5-minute break at a spot where it is completely inappropriate for a baseball game, but you gave me 2.5-minute break and a band that I couldn't care less about, right? The example there was if the Chiefs had the ball down 4, 2.5 minutes left to play, and a drive was on, and they're at the 40 going in, and they get a first down, and the ref stops the whistle, and they go, all right, Travis Kelce with a first down catch, knocked out of bounds there on the 42-yard line going in. Chiefs have to score a touchdown now, 2.5 minutes left to play. Now, let's listen for 2.5 minutes as Sabrina Carpenter sings Espresso. I like Sabrina Carpenter. I like Espresso. It's catchy, and it's a vibe. Not the time. Not the time. Doesn't matter the artist. Not the time. All right, so there's that. Let me get on to something else that came out of the football weekend. Since apparently the 7 o'clock hour is just Rob complains about things. Let me add one more to the pile. I think I came around yesterday. I think I'm anti-tush push now. I think I'm on team ban the tush push now. And let me start by saying it has 0, not a nothing, 9 to do with the Philadelphia Eagles. No, it has nothing to do with the Eagles. The Eagles found something, and I have been, for the duration of this conversation, team, if you don't like it, stop it, right? Like, that's been the take. If you don't like it, stop it. But here's the thing. Yesterday, the New York Giants stopped it, and then they didn't get the credit for stopping it. If this play can't be officiated, which is now, after what I saw yesterday in this game, my belief. It can't be officiated. Here's why. If you didn't see the play. It's third down. The Eagles are a yard shy, and as they are wont to do, they line up in the tush push. Jalen Hurts, as he does in the tush push, takes the snap, goes left off the guard. The 2 backs behind him lift him up by the pants and carry him across the first down line. Well, as the tush push is ongoing, Jalen Hurts is effectively stonewalled by the New York Giants at the line to gain. It's going to be very clear. It's going to be very close. And so Jalen Hurts, as he is moving forward, reaches the ball out to try to get it across the first down marker. Well, as he does, Kayvon Thibodeau reaches in, gets a mitt on the outstretched ball, and pulls it away from Jalen Hurts. The ball then rolls on the ground outside of the scrum. It is picked up by the Giants in what should have been a scoop and score 6 the other way in a game that, at that point in time, the Giants were very much alive in. After the ball is out, and when I say after the ball is out, I need you to know, when I saw this play yesterday, I actually put it on Twitter at the Rob Brown Show. When this play happened, because I went, ain't no way, that's a fumble, scoop, and score, right? I went back and I took that video and I put it into a video editing software that allows me to see both the video and the wave file, the audio file. It lets me see in visual form spikes in the audio up and down as the sound is recorded and played back. And I was looking for one particular spike, and that, of course, is the whistle. The whistle. Play to the whistle. It's what you hear every coach everywhere say every time. Play to the whistle. I went to go see where is the whistle blown to signal the play dead, and where is the ball when the whistle is blown. And I put this on Twitter yesterday. When the whistle is blown to signal that the ball is dead, the ball is out of Jalen Hurts' hands. And I went and I sat there and I did trigonometry to figure out where the ball was. That's not true. I just looked at it and eyeballed
Sine,
it. But,
cosine, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The ball was no less than 3 yards away from Jalen Hurts when the whistle was blown. And it was in the midst of a Giants player on the ground when the whistle got blown. So Jalen Hurts gets to the line, is moving forward. And last I checked, a play being ruled down by loss of momentum, the player must not have momentum. Jalen Hurts was clearly moving forward. The ball gets stripped. The ball hits the ground. The ball rolls 3 yards, is picked up by a Giants defender. And then as the Giants are scooping it to take it 6 the other way, all of a sudden you hear the whistle and the line judge running in, signaling that the play was already dead. I think that was bad. Now, if you want to say in a spot, Jalen Hurts is down by loss of forward momentum, I'm fine with that. But the whistle's got to get blown, and it's got to be signaled immediately. And instead, what I saw was Jalen Hurts, who was absolutely still moving forward, stretch the ball out. That's taking a big risk to have it pulled out of his hand, recovered by the Giants, and then. So here's what we know so far, just based on this year. The Eagles in the tush push are, number one, allowed to line up in the neutral zone. We have seen camera angle after camera angle that prove that the Eagles line up ahead of the ball in the line of scrimmage on the tush push, and it is not called. Number two, we know via plenty of plays I can go back and pull for you, the Eagles false start on the tush push multiple times. This is not a hater's perspective. This is somebody with 2 working eyes and a TV. The Eagles are allowed to false start on the tush push repeatedly. So what we have now is a play where the Eagles are, number one, allowed to line up offsides. Number two, allowed to false start. And now, when a team figured out a way to take the ball away from the Eagles on the tush push, now the referees can retroactively decide, no, actually, he was down 10 minutes ago. He was down way back there. We didn't blow the whistle when the ball was stripped. We didn't blow the whistle when the ball was rolling on the ground. We didn't blow the whistle when the Giants recovered it. We picked it up and we blew the whistle when the Giants clearly were about to score. And then we said, no, down by forward momentum way back there. No, he wasn't. He was very much clearly still moving forward at that point. And then they come in and they retroactively blow the play dead and give the ball back to Philadelphia. Look, if the play was well officiated, and I get that it's hard to do. I understand it. Trust me. I understand it's hard to do. I refereed like 2 seasons of high school football. Clearly, I'm qualified. All right? Football's a hard game to officiate.
You look like a high school referee.
So. Oh, totally. I did too. Yeah. I did too. It's a hard game to officiate. It's fast. Players clump up. You can't really see everything from every angle. You've got to trust that in high school, I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 guys on the field in high school. 1 in the front, 1 in the back, 2 on the sides, and a white cap. In the NFL, there's like 6, 7 guys on the football field at any given snap. You have to trust that everybody combined can see everything happening on the football field, and the guy who has the best view is the guy who gets to make the call about what did or did not happen. If we have a play where the Eagles are allowed to line up off sides, as they have and it's been proven, where they are allowed to false start, as they have and it is proven, and now the referee just decides when he wants to end the play. Not that the play is ended. And again, I get it. One of the robo-ump things that can't be put into place, I disagree with this, but I get the argument, is when do you rule a play dead based on loss of forward momentum? When do we rule the play dead based on a loss of forward momentum? In open field tackles, sometimes that's easier than other times. In a scrum, in a QB sneak, right up front, that can be hard to do. I get it because it's hard to see where the ball carrier is when he's inside of a massive, big-ass offensive lineman. I get it. But Jalen Hurts wasn't in the scrum. He was crowd surfing it like it was a Fish concert in 2003. You can see him. He is on top of the pile because his running backs lift him up by his ass and carry him forward. That is the play. It is obvious he's moving forward. So can line up off sides, can false start, and now when a defense said, okay, here's what we're going to do, instead of everybody just trying to win the tug of war at the top, we're going to send a guy off the right-hand side where Jalen Hurts goes every time. And if the ball stretches out, punch it. Punch the ball. Get the ball. See ball, get ball. And they see ball, get ball. And then the ref goes, no, actually, no, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't believe that the game's rigged for Philly at all. I just believe that they have not figured out a way to officiate this. And on a play where the officiating should have been clear, that should have been the easiest the tush push has ever been to officiate. Jalen did not disappear into the pile. He was on top of it, crowd surfing. And it was clear he was moving forward, and it was clear the ball was out, and it was clear the ball was stripped. It was clear the ball was recovered. It was clearly a Giants ball. It was the most obvious officiating of the tush push since the tush push became a phenomenon, and they got it wrong. And when you stack that onto, they get offsides wrong on it more than they don't. They get false starts wrong more than they don't. Now when they don't call offsides and false start, and a team figured out how to take it away, now all of the sudden, the official goes, actually, no. This is the biggest actually Monday. The referee says, well, actually, no, he was down. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. I called it in real time. He was still moving. Forget the 99 replays they showed. Clearly still moving. I switched in a single play from the guy who has been screaming for a while, hey, man, if you don't like the tush push, find a way to stop the tush push. 2, you can't stop it. It cannot be stopped. There is no way to stop this because when a team finally did stop it, the referee said, actually, no, you didn't. I'm at the point now where I think we have to ban the tush push, and I hate it. All right, we'll talk more about this later on. We'll talk a lot of college football. When we come back, Jon Blau joins us in about 50 minutes to talk some Clemson football, all that and more after the tush push of sports flashes. It's unstoppable from Lonzo.
Okay. The Carolina Panthers win streak ended in a brutal fashion, a 40-9 loss to the Bills. Andy Dalton replaced the injured Bryce Young, going 15 of 24 for 175 yards and 1 pick. Josh Allen attempted just 19 passes, completed a dozen for 163 yards and 1 touchdown. The day belonged to James Cook, though, who ran 19 times for 216 yards and 2 touchdowns in the win. The new AP poll is out, and Ohio State stays at number 1. Indiana's number 2. Texas A&M stays at 3. Alabama, Georgia, and Oregon all remain in spots 4 through 6, followed by Ole Miss, Georgia Tech, and Vanderbilt at 7 through 9. BYU and Miami are tied at 10, one spot ahead of Notre Dame. LSU has fired head coach Brian Kelly, electing to pay him his $54 million in buyout money. The Tigers lost to Texas A&M on Saturday, LSU's third loss this season. It's not good. It's not good. I'm not good. I'm dying.
The Rob Brown Show on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the Great Malazzo, and you. We've been all over the map so far this AM. We return to college football. The top 25 has been dropped after week numero 10. Ohio State hangs on to their top spot. Indiana, A&M, Alabama, Georgia, and Oregon stayed stacked 2 through 6 behind them. Our first change is a flip-flop between Ole Miss, now at 7, Georgia Tech, now at 8. Vandy comes up a spot to number 9. BYU up a spot, Miami down a spot. Both of them tied with 1,069 nice points at number 10. Notre Dame is now number 12, a spot ahead of 13 Texas Tech. They are up 1 spot. Notre Dame stays put at number 12. Tennessee jumps up 3 spots to number 14. Virginia up 1 to 15. Louisville up 3 spots to number 16. Cincinnati, the Bearcats at 7-1, up 4 spots now to number 17. Oklahoma, after their L2 Ole Miss, drops 5 spots down to number 18. Mizzou, after their L2 Vandy, down 4 spots to number 19. Texas gets the close win over Mississippi State, up a pair of spots to number 20. Michigan up 4 to number 21. Houston, USC, Utah, and Memphis stacked 22, 3, 4, and 5. So what do we take away from the college football weekend? Well, story number 1, Brian Kelly out at LSU. LSU, of course, loses game number 3, this time at the crib at night to Texas A&M. Brian Kelly was relieved of his duties on Sunday, less than 24 hours after the L. Not a big shock in that spot. Brian Kelly won less than 71% of his games. He has 0 hardware added to the trophy cabinet in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And on top of all of that, I am relatively confident that Brian Kelly is the least liked head coach in college football. Brian Kelly is a dude, and I've pointed this out before. Brian Kelly is a dude who shows a shocking ability to try to take all of the credit when things go well for himself and to spread the blame to everybody that's not him when things go poorly. He did it at Notre Dame. He left Notre Dame. He has done it since he arrived in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I have pointed out the time at Notre Dame where Brian Kelly, again, won nothing. He had the issue with the death of a student videographer at a practice. And, I mean, granted, I get why, because there were potentially tens of millions of dollars of lawsuits. And had he come out and said, yo, that's my bad, he'd have gotten targeted for a civil suit that would have probably cost him every dollar he ever made coaching. But never an issue, never an apology, never an acknowledgement of what happened. At Notre Dame, it was always something or somebody else's fault. It was recruiting restrictions. It was grade requirements. It was all these different things that made Brian Kelly say, I can't, and I don't believe anybody else can win a national championship at Notre Dame. Now, granted, Notre Dame has not won a national championship since Brian Kelly left. However, they've gotten closer with more regularity since Brian Kelly left and Marcus Freeman took over than they did before Brian Kelly left and before Marcus Freeman took over. He gets to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. At first he gets there and it's the roster stinks. And then he's got good rosters and they lose. And then it was something else's fault. And it was, I mean, he literally in no less than 2 press conferences called guys that he recruited and he brought to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, quote, uncoachable, end quote. Well, buddy, if you brought them to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and they're uncoachable, that's also on you, my guy. That means you're recruiting or transfer portaling in uncoachable guys. You're the coach. If they're uncoachable, you went and got dudes that you, the coach, can't coach. That's on you. So it is largely unsurprising. It is largely unshocking that after the 49-25 loss where Texas A&M just absolutely kicked the crap out of the Tigers up and down the field, they decided, yeah, enough is enough. $54 million in buyout to Brian Kelly. Apparently, this is how much they wanted the guy gone. They did not even have an agreement in place with Brian Kelly about how the buyout would be structured. They just said, we'll figure it out later. Call us because you don't work here no more. You can't come in and talk with us. You don't have a key to the office anymore.
What was Ed Orgeron's buyout?
That is a great question. I don't remember off the top of my head. I can't imagine it was $54 million.
Did Chip Kelly say the same thing when he
$17.1 million for the record when he was fired back in 2021.
What did Orgeron say about the door? I don't remember.
I believe he said, if y'all want to pay me that much money, I'll come right back through it the other way. I believe. I think it's what he said was, if y'all want to pay me that much money, I'll come right back to the LSU Tigers. Go Tigers. I'll be right back. Give me a $54 million buyout. I'll be right back in that saddle. Go Tigers. I believe is what he said. That's a pretty close quote. I may have mispronounced a word there, but pretty close. Not go or Tigers, though. Go Tigers. So, Now we know that the college coaching carousel is spinning around at about a gazillion RPMs right now. We know that some of the jobs that are open right now include, obviously, LSU, Penn State.
What's bigger job between those two?
That is exactly the segment that I'm about to do. So I'm glad you asked the question, because there's a lot of jobs open and a lot of jobs that we speculate will be open. We know LSU is open. We know Penn State is open. We know Florida is open. We know Oklahoma State is open. We know Virginia Tech is open. We know Arkansas is open. We know Stanford is open. We know UCLA is open, maybe. Those are the ones that are open. We also know that there are some other schools that may be open. Florida State may be open at the end of the year. Again, Florida State owes more money to Mike Norvell than LSU owes to Brian Kelly, because after the 2023 season, where Florida State went 13-0, won the ACC, and was not invited to the college football playoff, Alabama came a-calling, and Florida State offered Mike Norvell a fat-ass contract to keep him in Tallahassee, Florida, so he didn't bolt for Tuscaloosa, as the rumor was that he was interested in doing. I bet Florida State looks back upon that decision with not great fondness at this point, but here we are. So the question mark was, and a lot of people said, how did Mike Norvell not get fired after the loss to Stanford? And the answer is because LSU was never going to have a problem finding $54 million for Brian Kelly. FSU right now is finding a problem finding $56 million to give to Mike Norvell to get him out of Tallahassee, Florida. They didn't get the booster response that they had hoped to generate the money necessary to fire Mike Norvell. So he is going to get to finish the season. My suspicion is after the season is over, after that buyout drops probably closer to like $48 million, I don't know the exact language or financials behind it, that FSU will pull the trigger on firing Mike Norvell. Add that to the roster of open jobs. So if I was to say, let's rank the Power 4 jobs in terms of attractiveness, because I do think it is going to be harder now than it ever has been before to take away big name coaches. And that conversation got kicked into high gear this weekend because it is not only rumored that the University of Florida's number one target is Lane Kiffin, who is currently and actively coaching the Ole Miss Running Rebels, a current and active one-loss football team who just got another ranked win under the belt and are in a prime position right now. A prime position right now to make it to the college football playoffs. But it is not just rumored that Florida wants to go get Lane Kiffin. It is now rumored that Florida is willing to offer upwards of $14+ million annually for Lane Kiffin. It is now rumored that Florida is willing to make Lane Kiffin the highest paid head coach in college football to get him out of Oxford, Mississippi, and bring him to Gainesville, Florida. The thing is, we just watched Indiana, and I brought this up 2 weeks ago when the signing happened, and I pointed to this moment without knowing that this moment was going to be the conversation we were having at 8:10 on October 27th. I said at the time, this one is interesting. The hiring of Cignetti is interesting because Indiana now has the third highest paid head coach in college football. Indiana has that. And if Indiana can come up with the third highest paid head coach in college football, then even teams towards the bottom of the SEC and the Big Ten likely can as well, because you've got more money than you've ever had before. Yep, $22 million is going into rev share for these schools, the Big Ten and the SEC, but they're also making a lot more than they were making a number of years ago. And they will make a lot more next year than they did this year. And shocker, spoiler alert, they'll make a lot more the year after that than they make next year. So to make Curt Cignetti, after 2 years in Bloomington, Indiana, the third highest paid head coach in college football, do you not think that if they want to do it, Ole Miss can't find Curt Cignetti money to keep Lane Kiffin in the bank? And more importantly, if they can, What does Florida have to come off of to coax them out of Oxford, Mississippi and get them to Gainesville? Because Lane Kiffin, as he said in a presser last week, as Matt Rule said when he got linked to the Penn State job. Now, granted, this was before Nebraska lost a real dumb game. But he said, look, I can do whatever the hell I want at Nebraska. I run this town. Now, he didn't say the college. He said, I run this town. He said it's a town of 300,000 people, and I can, quote, do whatever I want, end quote. If Nebraska, who has been irrelevant to college football for 2+ decades now, if Nebraska is able to come off enough money that they can convince Matt Rule to stay there and not go to Pennsylvania State University, another one of those schools that, yeah, they don't have any titles in there, but they got money, dog. If they can keep him there, do you think that Ole Miss is not willing to go, we'll give you Kurt Cignetti money plus some to stay here because we make more money than the Big Ten schools do? We got a little bit more. We'll throw it at you, Lane. And if that is the answer, if Ole Miss is willing to come off of Indiana money and pay more than they have ever paid a college football coach to coach the Ole Miss Running Rebels, do you not think that Florida, who is annually considered one of the best jobs in college football, you don't think Florida can find $2+ million more per year? My question mark is going to be, what is the cap? Is there a cap? Is there a spot where they go, Florida says, all right, tell you what, Lane, we will do $16 million annually, make you easily the number one highest paid coach. Does Ole Miss say 16.5 and we name the city after you? From now on, when people take a road trip to come play the Running Rebels of Ole Miss, they come to Kiffin, Mississippi to take on Ole Miss. I don't know.
That doesn't sound bad, actually.
It really doesn't.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. On top of that, just make him mayor. Just let Lane run the whole city.
What if you were one of these head coaches? Where would you go?
LSU. The answer is LSU.
I think that's the answer too.
I think it is.
I do.
And I would say that. And part of the reason I brought this up was
and
because
probably Florida's second, and
I think Florida's in that mix,
and maybe Penn State third.
I would say Penn State, Florida, probably tied for second for me. I can make an argument either way. And then I would say, honestly, everybody else that is open right now is a distant third. Everybody else. The only school that's not open yet that I could say maybe, probably not, but maybe you could add to tier 2 with Penn State and Florida, maybe Florida State. But to be honest, they're going to have to put so much money into Mike Norvell. I don't know that they will be able to bid like Florida, who only had to pay Billy Napier 22 million, I think. James Franklin, 46 mil. But again, the rumor mill is Adidas is paying most of that. Like Adidas is coming off of that, which means if that's true, and to be honest with you, the further we go into the story, the more I'm believing that it is. The further we go down that road, the more I'm sitting here thinking, that means Ole Miss doesn't really have to worry about, Penn State doesn't have to worry about money either. They can go right back to James Franklin level money. I don't know that Florida State can. LSU, on the flip side, absolutely can. This is why they were able to pull the trigger on Brian Kelly in 17 hours versus Mike Norvell, who Florida State says we may not win but 1 or 2 more games, maybe, but we got to let Norvell ride out the rest of this year. It is all about money. LSU has numero uno in the country caliber money and a fan base that doesn't give a damn about anything but LSU football. I have pointed this out for years. What got Brian Kelly fired is not the results. It's not the results. What got Brian Kelly fired is the fact that LSU should have a stacked roster every year because, and I don't think this is true about any other place in America. This is an elite aspect of coaching at LSU. This is why it is program number 1. The money is top tier in the country. No doubt about that. The facilities are top 1 in the country. If they're not the best in the country, they'll make another renovation next year to get them back there. What makes LSU the number 1 job is kids in Louisiana are only LSU fans. That's it. Nobody is in Louisiana growing up a Bama fan. I'm from there, y'all. I can say this with certainty and authority. There are no kids that grow up in Southeast Louisiana that are interested in Alabama. It's not the case. Now, in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, maybe. Outside of Tuscaloosa, about half the fans are Auburn fans. And around Opelika, Alabama, about half the fans are Bama fans. In South Carolina, about half of your Clemson, about half of your South Carolina fans. In Virginia, Virginia Tech. In Florida, which produces more recruits, But they got 3 schools down there, Florida, Florida State, and Miami. And oh, by the way, UCF and USF have both been trying to get into the game. They got as many as 5 schools to consider in Florida. In Louisiana, there is LSU and only LSU, which means that it's not about the 5 stars and the 4 stars. It's about the 3 stars you round out your roster with. So LSU does the national coaching thing or the national recruiting thing. They go pull 5 stars from all 50 states of the union. But after all the 5 and 4 stars are divvied up, schools have to fill out the rest of the roster with 2 and 3 star guys. And if you got to fill your roster with 2 and 3 star guys in Clemson, you're competing with South Carolina. And you're competing with Georgia, that's right over the hill. And you're competing with North Carolina and Duke right up the road, and Florida, who has inroads into Carolina. And LSU, you are not competing with anybody for the 2 and the 3 star kids around Southeast Louisiana, which is a hotbed of recruiting. They're all LSU guys. Run of the mill. You get to pick whoever you want out of those guys, which means you should have the best depth roster in football. I would say maybe Penn State is similar in that I don't think there's a lot of folks around Pennsylvania that are looking outside of Penn State, but it's also a much geographically smaller area. And Pennsylvania does not pump out the number of high school recruits that Louisiana does. Just by number. There's just not as many of them as there are in Louisiana. So with all of that being said, Brian Kelly did not just get fired because the results weren't there, and they weren't. Brian Kelly also got fired because LSU, which has always had a stranglehold on a very good recruiting bed in Southeast Louisiana, either A, doesn't, or B, isn't taking advantage of it the way that they did when Les Miles, the hat, was there. When I was there, I'll talk about going around to the high schools and go Tigers. They took advantage of that, and they pumped out some pretty good teams. And then they learned, we can use the portal for guys like Joe Burrow. We can go get those guys, and that can be our supplement. But we got enough depth guys in the state. Brian Kelly wasn't taking advantage of that. That got him canned. You add all on top of all of that, Brian Kelly was the guy that was more than happy to spread blame to everybody not named Brian Kelly, but to grab all of the credit when things went right. That's what got him fired. So, as far as the jobs that are open, I think LSU is clear and away the most attractive job in football, and they will have the money to get anybody that they want. Here's a news flash. Florida wants Lane Kiffin. Don't be shocked if LSU makes a play for Lane Kiffin too. I think Penn State and Florida are probably tied 2 and 3 for the next most lucrative jobs out there. And here's the thing that, as of today, Arkansas, Oklahoma State, Virginia Tech, Stanford, all the other schools, they're all distant last places, all of them. And Florida State might join that group too, to the point that it doesn't really matter who you guys want because your job is not worth waiting for like it is. Those schools may have to pay less money to a question mark coach and hope they hit on the next Kurt Cignetti, not be able to just go grab the next big offensive coordinator who is more than willing to hang out to wait to get Brian Kelly money at LSU. I think this whole thing's turned on its head. All right, we'll come back here in a minute. We'll get a few more thoughts on the college football weekend. Jon Blau joins us in about 20 minutes to talk about Clemson. Final hour of the show belongs to you on a actually Monday edition of the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, I got to upload some audio. Y'all stay right there for me. I will be right back. Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Good morning, Upstate South Carolina. Hello, America. What up, world? All right. I won't spend a ton of time on this, but I did think that it was a very interesting moment yesterday. I was watching the Carolina-Buffalo game, and I heard a few times the words after expedited replay. I also heard that a number of times during the Saints-Buccaneers game yesterday. The ref would walk in and say, after expedited replay, the call on the field has been overturned. And it was interesting because we hadn't really, at least not heard it with such frequency.
Yeah, I noticed that yesterday too on several of the games I was watching. And I had it on Red Zone, and it happened a bunch on Red Zone too. So what is allowed to have an expedited?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm glad that you asked it, because last night did Chris Collinsworth. And of course, dumb thing. That was on me. That's absolutely software not working. Let me fix that, because I do have the clip. So let me change over what I need to change over, because that's how live radio works. So did Chris Collinsworth. Chris?
Would you like to ask Terry your question?
Yes, I would.
Let's do it.
Replay assist versus you have to challenge.
So on that play, it was objectively clear and obvious without any further analysis that it was a touchdown, because he got the control 2 feet down, took an additional step. On the line feed, we can see it was a touchdown. So replay assist, that's when they can come in and review it immediately and fix it.
And Terry, is that the replay officials here in the stadium, or is that Game Day Central in New York, the replay center?
Could be either or both.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Terry. Or Terry can just do it for us, as he does.
Nobody does it better than he does. But I mean, it is, Terry, will you grant me, it's hard to understand what the difference is. And the blurring of the line sometimes comes down to plays. And now we've got the onside. No, I would just like to, is this an evolving art, or do we actually have hard and fast rules here?
It's evolving, and they've gotten better with it, being more consistent with it. But one of the key things I said was, without further analysis, if they've got to go in and look at several different angles and look at it to figure out what happened, they're not going to assist. Plays like this that can be done really very quickly with just minimal analysis, that's where they're going to go and replay assist, and it needs to be objective.
And they got it right at the end of the day. I know what you're saying.
I do want to say that I really like replay assist. I think it has done really important things to make sure we're getting the right calls more often than not.
Yes.
I really do think that's very important. I do think there's a tough line for the average fan to understand when it is you have to challenge and when it is replay assist comes into play.
So that was a conversation that happened last night after expedited replay stepped in and changed a ruling on the field. It is, to me, not as complicated as Chris Collinsworth is making it sound. And I think Terry did a great job of explaining that. We heard the term expedited replay a number of times yesterday. And effectively, I think what Terry is saying there is that expedited replay is effectively a group of people, one at the stadium and one at NFL HQ in New York City, that are looking at plays. And when they watch a replay, very quick, very dirty, when they just watch the replay, if they go, no, that's obviously wrong, like that's obviously an incorrect call, then they can buzz the head ref and go, hey, man, you got that one wrong. Go ahead and overturn it. If it is a replay that will take them 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times to watch through. And again, I think that we have gotten a really interesting look. I really hope more organizations do this. But the ACC this year, to me, I thought didn't just have a good idea, a groundbreaking and good idea, in that they now let us go behind the scenes for instant replay challenges. That is to say, they show you on your TV screen the exact same thing that the referee is seeing on the replay monitor, and you get to listen to the conversation. Hey, give me clip number 7-2. Give me this angle. What do you guys see? How about this? All right, is there that foot? Is there this hand grab or whatever. They're letting you go behind the hood, and I think that's been fantastic. So basically what Terry is saying here for the expedited replay is there are a group of officials, 2 of them, one at the stadium, one in New York, that are watching every play. And when a play pops up and they watch the quick replay, if on a quick replay, it is very obvious that the call was incorrect, then they'll buzz down and say overturn it. But if it is not obvious, or if they go, we could figure this out, but it's going to take another 10, 15, 20 seconds of watching multiple replays, then that's on the coach to challenge. That's on the team to challenge if they want to put their replay challenge at risk to replay that in the heat of the moment. And I think that's fine because I think it walks that very thin line between those of us who want every call right and don't care if the game is slowed down 10, 12 minutes to make that happen versus the people who say, no, you can't impact the flow of the game. Don't care if you got it wrong. Don't impact the flow of the game. The game's got to flow. This is a good way to do both. If it is something that, without interrupting the flow of the game, somebody with a monitor can say, that's wrong, flip it over, and they can do that just as rapidly as getting to the next play, then expedited replay review will take care of it. But if it is something that will disrupt the flow of the game because it's going to take them 30, 45, 60 seconds to go through all the different angles and see what is going to happen and what call was wrong and right, et cetera, then that becomes part of the challenge system. And an NFL team and an NFL head coach will have to decide in that moment if it is worth risking their challenge and, more importantly, risking a timeout in order to challenge. I think it's a good system. I think Terry explained it very well. I understand where Collinsworth is coming from the standpoint of casual fans that are just checking in for a few minutes, a few games, probably aren't going to necessarily understand without it having explained to them, like that segment did, exactly how it works. Here's the thing. I don't care. I don't care if a cash turns in and goes, wait a minute, why did if you care enough, it'll be explained to you and you'll get it. And if you don't care enough, you're not going to watch a game or decide not to watch a game because of the words expedited replay. That's not going to work. That's not how it works. I think it's a good system. I think we got to see it play out a number of times successfully across the NFL yesterday, and a ton of credit to Terry yesterday, McAuliffe, who explained it, I think, in a way that was quick and understandable within the flow of the game. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back here in a minute. Jon Blau of the Post and Courier joins us in the next segment. He'll tell us what Clemson spent the bye week doing and the expectations as they get set to take on Darien Mensa and Duke this weekend. That's next on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, stay right there. We're going to get Jon Blau on the line. We'll come back here in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's the Fan of State. Rob Brown, the Great Malonzo, and you on a, well, actually Monday where we react to other people's overreactions from the college and pro football weekends. The good news for the Clemson Tigers is that there's nothing really to react to, at least not in terms of competitive on the field football. The Tigers on the bye this past weekend as they get ready for Darian Mensah and the Duke Blue Devils coming up this weekend. And what feels like coming off the bye could be a statement win one way or the other. But what that statement is, let's find out. From Jon Blau from the Post and Courier, he covers the Clemson Tiger football team and athletic department at large for the Post and Courier. Joins us every single Monday at 8:40 to talk Clemson athletics. Jon Blau, welcome back, my guy. Did you get a little R&R on a bye week Saturday, or were you locked in the lab getting ready for next week against the Blue Devils?
If you consider R&R kind of like half watching, also zoning out during a 12-inning fall baseball game between Clemson and Alabama, then maybe. But, I think I was actually focused for about 90% of it, but it's hard to actually maintain focus for 12 straight innings. So
I respect that.
Some ordinary there. Yeah.
Even as a baseball guy, I get it. I understand it. I respect it. Jon Blau for the Post and Courier. Let's start with this, John. Developments, news, information, details. Spill the tea. What was the bye week for the Clemson football team? We know what the season is. We know where Dabo's been. We know where the coaching staff is. We know where the players are. Disappointed with what the year has been. But I know at points like this in years gone by, this has been a spot where Dabo Swinney would grab a mic and say, it's a new season. It's an opportunity to start a new sentence, start a new chapter, whatever phrase you want to use. Did we have anything that jumped off the page of the bye week, or are we keeping it quiet and close to the vest until the Blue Devils on Saturday?
Yeah, it was a pretty quiet bye week. I don't really remember anything all that shocking from what we heard on Tuesday from the players. We talked to Tom Allen. That was interesting in terms of, the fact that, maybe he doesn't have all the pieces he needs, or maybe that was 2 weeks ago. Actually, I'm forgetting that. I think that was 2 weeks ago. But yeah, we talked to some players. Wasn't anything all that shocking. But yeah, it's been relatively quiet. We'll hear from Dabo today when he has his radio show, at 8 p.m. We'll probably hear, like you said, some of those phrases in terms of new season, see what we can do with the rest of the season. Rear view mirror and all that. We're not looking at it. Windshield mentality. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of those quotes, but I'm sure that, in the building, there's been more said in terms of the reset and what they're trying to accomplish. It's more pride than anything at this point, because obviously, again, the ACC title picture, you're pretty much out of it. Not making a playoff. It's just about trying to make a bowl game at this point. So we'll see if they can focus up and make that happen.
So what is your expectation? Now we'll talk about the X's and O's. We'll talk about the game about to face number 2 in a string of, I think, like 6 teams consecutively with mobile quarterbacks that we've seen that present a problem for Clemson. We'll get into all that in a few minutes, but what are your expectations for this weekend against the Duke Blue Devils?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, because I think the secondary has been one of the biggest issues Clemson's had in their entire team. And you're about to play a quarterback who has 2,200 passing yards, is the leading passer in the ACC. So I think the last time out he threw for 373, in a loss. So, he's got to get his yards. It's just about kind of when he gets them, and are you as an offense able to, score enough back to be able to, not make this SMU all over again. Obviously, the big question is whether Cade Klubnik is going to be available. I know he gave a couple of interviews to national outlets this past week. Talked about he's hoping to be back soon, but does soon mean this weekend, or do we see another, game with Christopher Vezina at quarterback? And so, Vezina was pretty good in that second half against SMU, not very good in that first half. And they got behind, and it was an uphill climb that they couldn't make it. So, yeah, is the secondary going to be ready? Because obviously Darian Mensah is a guy who can really single around. Is the offense going to be ready to be able to sort of match what Duke's going to be able to do this weekend?
That is an interesting thought. Chris Vezina, Cade Klubnik, the return to the airwaves last Monday after the L to SMU. The war cry from a lot of folks kind of was, Jon Blau, we can't blame that on Chris Vezina. Like, we can't play. He played about as well as we would have expected Cade Klubnik to have played in that spot. The point I made was kind of like, yeah, we don't know that, right? Like, maybe that was another game like UNC, like BC, where against maybe the worst passing defense in the ACC, maybe that was a Cade Klubnik 400-yard, 3-touchdown game. We can't know. We won't know. But was there enough out of Christopher Vezina that when you add it into the context of a 4-3 season, where obviously, yeah, you want to write the next chapter and have a great back half of the year, but if you're Dabo Swinney, I think you do have to be looking forward to and concerned about 2026. Is there a possibility that either Christopher Vezina could take the starting role? Is there a possibility that Cade Klubnik is on a shorter leash moving forward because Vezina could get more snaps? Like, has there been any conversation about that at all outwardly that would give us an indication either way?
Yeah, we haven't heard much outwardly. Again, we got the radio show tonight. Maybe you'll get a text question from a fan about that. We'll obviously be able to ask maybe more questions tomorrow of Dabo about that. But I don't think necessarily, this is just me talking, that it would be bad for Clemson to get another start from Chris Vezina. Because, again, that was a really nice effort against SMU. As 317 yards. But, SMU, I think, on average was getting up 316. So that's normal for any quarterback against SMU. So you would like to see Vezina maybe play a pass defense, which I don't know if Duke's got the greatest pass defense in college football. It's pretty good, and to see him against them, and get a better gauge of kind of where he's at and where you're at with the quarterback position going into next year. I'm sure really it's going to just depend on the health of Cade Klubnik's ankle. I mean, because you want to win this game, you want to put yourself in the best chance or best position to win this game so you can get back to 500 and have a chance to salvage the rest of the season. So I'm sure, Cade gave it everything he had the last time out, and, even had some warm-up throws, but didn't look very comfortable. Maybe, a couple weeks later, he's ready to go and he'll do the same and he feels good enough. But at the end of the day, I think unless he's like absolutely 100%, I think you might want to let Vezina get another shot out there to see what you have.
I think that's fair. Have we heard anything about Klubnik's ankle that would give us any indication about his availability?
We have not. Again, he gave, I think Cade gave some interviews last week, said he'll be back soon. That's not like I'm going to be back next game. We'll be back, now. We haven't heard that, but again, we'll probably get more insight in terms of how much he's practicing, if he's able to practice this week, or if it's going to be another situation like the last game where, he was kind of held out mostly with the trainers, hoping maybe to get back into practice later in the week, and then that never really happened. So we'll see where he's at as they start the week this time.
Jon Blau of the Post and Courier joining us here on the Rob Brown Show, and the Fan Upstate does so every Monday at 8:40. So now let's get into, Jon Blau, the X's and O's of this game. Again, the key for me, it has been the last couple of games. It will be for the duration of the season. It's about quarterbacks. It's about quarterbacks that are able to use athleticism to get around, to move a little bit. They're not going to get pinned in easily by the front seven. It's Mensah now. It's Castellanos down the road. It's Lenora Sellers at the end of the year. From what you have seen against quarterbacks like Kevin Jennings against SMU 2 weekends ago, what do you believe the defense against this Duke team, a Duke team that has been getting better week by week, a Duke team that is 3-1 in conference? They've lost some games that aren't necessarily all that impressive. A loss to Tulane, but the two games they did lose. One was at the time, very impressive Illinois team ranked top 11, and then they lost to a very good Georgia Tech team at their house. It's a beatable team, but you do kind of have to play fundamentally sound defense to stop Darian Mensah. What do you think is the mode of attack? Are we going to see a very aggressive Tom Allen defense, or will this be one that you just play fundamentally and hope Duke is Duke again?
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to, again, what I thought was last week, but it was actually 2 weeks ago with Tom Allen, where he was talking about, I think somebody asked him very directly, does the ability to play man coverage affect how much pressure you can bring? And he was very honest and said, yeah, no, that's a reality, and I don't think Clemson's brought as much pressure as Tom Allen would like, because he hasn't been able to trust his defensive backs to play man coverage and to win. And so I hate to say it, but it's been kind of a bend don't break defense for Tom Allen most this year. I think that's probably what you're going to look at in terms of just playing the best coverage you can to hopefully not get burnt over the top, not have those huge coverage busts that they've had in previous weeks. Obviously, in an ideal world, you bring some pressure, you get in Darius Metz's face, you move him off the spot, you make him uncomfortable. But you're going to have to get that probably with the front fours. I mean, there's going to be a lot on Jaheim Lawson and, Will Held, TJ Parker, and all those guys to get some pressure with the front four so you don't have to bring a ton as far as the second and third level there. And so, I think obviously you want to bring pressure. I don't know how much you can just because of where you're at right now. I don't know if some of those problems get fixed until the offseason in terms of the secondary.
I think that's fair. So with that being said, and I hate to ask, so I'll make it the second to last question, not the last question, Jon Blau. What is the reaction? What are the consequences? What is the feeling, whatever you want to dress it up as? What are the thoughts around this football program on Monday if the Duke Blue Devils, again, not a bad football team, but certainly not a power team right now. What is the reaction and what is the sentiment if the Duke Blue Devils do win this football game?
I mean, I know what the outside reaction is going to be. It's going to be, obviously a lot more anxiety, upset. I think that will be 6 straight losses at home to power conference opponents, which, I think that is the longest streak. It will match the streak from 1970 to 71. So, obviously a lot of upset. But as far as inside the building, I've never seen Clemson quit completely. I think they're not obviously playing well, and I think there's a lot of frustration about that in the building. But at least if you give Dabo Swinney's program some credit, they don't ever seem to quit completely. So I don't know if it changes anything. I don't know if that is the final straw that breaks the camel's back, and you start to see some guys kind of mentally give in as far as, now we got to play Florida State. We got to play Louisville on the road. We got to, all that. Maybe there's some temptation there, but at the end of the day, I don't really think that's the case. I mean, I think there's a lot of, guys with pride in that building. So I think if they lose, it's going to be the same thing. They're going to go try to pick back up and try to win the next game. But obviously on the outside, I know that it will get even more chaotic. And I say that sometimes I think to myself, I don't know, maybe it won't. Maybe the fans have kind of come to accept what this season is, but otherwise it'll just continue to be a lot of negative regardless, I guess.
I'm glad you're there, Jon Blau, because that's exactly the type of things that keeps guys like me employed on the radio. Jon Blau for the Post and Courier here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. So with all of that being said, Jon Blau, with what we've seen out of the Blue Devils, with the bye week for Clemson, the opportunity to maybe get right, your prediction for this game?
Without knowing who's a quarterback, let's say 30, Duke 30, Clemson 27 right now. That's what I'd predict just because I don't know who's a quarterback for Clemson. And again, the defense for Clemson has just been so bad on the back end. It could flip. I mean, again, it feels like maybe you have, return. What do you call that? Obviously things go one way. They flip back to the norm at some point in time. I don't know if I can imagine 6 straight losses to power conference opponents. So maybe Clemson does finally turn around and play well at home. But right now I'd have to pick a Duke win, I think. Fair
enough. Jon Blau from the Post and Courier joins us every Thursday at 8:40 to talk Clemson athletics. My man, appreciate it as always. Next week's conversation could be very interesting one way or the other, brother. Look forward to it.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Rob.
You got it. Jon Blau, Post and Courier. Appreciate his time every Monday morning at 8:40 a.m. When we come back in the final hour of the show, I have a few more things that I want to get to. Quick mention of the Charlotte Hornets. Another good win. Want to talk about what they look like because, boy, howdy, I like the direction they're going. The NCAA just lost $18 million in a lawsuit. What does it say about their future? I will share that for you in the next hour of the show. And I would like to give a pat on the back to Justin Fields. I'll tell you why coming up. All of that in the next hour of the show. But before we get to any of that, ladies and gentlemen, this is a championship caliber sports flash.
Or an example of playing hurt, the Carolina Panthers win streak ended in a brutal fashion, a 40-9 loss to the Bills. Andy Dalton replaced the injured Bryce Young, going 15 of 24 for 175 yards and 1 pick. Josh Allen attempted just 19 passes, completing a dozen for 163 yards and 1 touchdown. The day belonged to James Cook, who ran 19 times for 216 yards and 2 touchdowns in the win. That's good. It's a lot. New AP poll is out, and Ohio State stays at number 1. Indiana is at 2. Texas A&M stays at 3. Alabama, Georgia, and Oregon all remain in spots 4 through 6, followed by Ole Miss, Georgia Tech, and Vanderbilt at 7 through 9. BYU and Miami are tied at 10, 1 spot ahead of Notre Dame. And LSU has fired head coach Brian Kelly, electing to pay him his $54 million in buyout money. The Tigers lost to Texas A&M on Saturday, LSU's 3rd loss this season, and that will get you fired.
The final hour of the Rob Brown Show goes now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the Great Alonzo, Andy, you're rolling through the 4 most electrifying hours in sports talk entertainment you'll find anywhere this early in the morning. Let's do a little cleanup spot. Look through a couple of texts that you guys have sent so far this AM on the radio show. The phone lines are open for you, 844-326-3663. You can call that number, get on the air. You can text that number. I will read and react to those texts. Here are a few of them. Tolo J. Butane texted the show. He said, stuck here in the car line, Ravens won their first of 11 straight to finish 12-5. You heard it here first. We will find out, of course. The Ravens did get back into the W column yesterday. They have been in a bit of a slide since the loss of Lamar Jackson, dating back to that L to the Kansas City Chiefs a few weeks ago. Had been waiting to see what the Ravens would do without him, and more importantly, when the Ravens would get him back. They do knock off the Chicago Bears. 30-16 is your final in this one. Baltimore led 10-6 at the half behind Tyler Huntley. 17 of 22, a $186 and a tutty. Derrick Henry, 21 carries, 71 yards, 2 ground touchdowns, however. On the flip side, again, not an awful day, but not a great day for Caleb Williams. 25 of 38, 285, no touches, 1 interception. Chicago couldn't get anybody going on the ground. 45 yards for DeAndre Swift. Williams had 24 on 3 carries. Chicago's got to find some level of consistency and a balanced attack. As far as the Ravens go, again, just give it to Derrick Henry a bunch. I don't know how that's confusing for that football team. Jay Butane, we will find out. Texter said Briscoe is the NASCAR group of 5 representative if this is the NCAA playoffs. That's fair. Chase Briscoe getting in, interesting. We do have, as mentioned earlier in the show, our Final 4 is set for the NASCAR postseason championship next weekend at Phoenix. William Byron gets in with the win this past weekend at Martinsville. We'll talk more about that as we get closer to the championship race this weekend, because I love NASCAR. And we brought up the segment earlier in the show. What can NASCAR do? Because this past weekend should have been one of the most compelling races on the calendar, with effectively 6 guys competing for 2 spots. 2 of them win to get in scenarios, and one of them was able to by upending the other one. Should have been the most compelling thing to happen in NASCAR in a very long time. And I realized, even as a NASCAR fan who is checked in, I had that race on the smallest screen in my house, because it just it kind of was what it was. So we'll get to that here in just a little while. We've got a text. Spike, Texas Show, said Brian Kelly makes people feel better about Dabo Swinney and Shane Beamer. It's not unfair. Because I will say this, regardless of the conversation about football, regardless of the conversation about results, regardless of the conversation about trophies or lack thereof, at least you can say, if you are Clemson or South Carolina, our coach isn't a total and complete butthole. And I think that's a win in the grand scheme of things, I think it's a win. Texas said, I have, let's see, wait, there goes. Buckeye Mike, Texas Show, said, I have told both of you and Cole and Diesel that Brian Kelly was the new version of Jimbo Fisher. Overrated coach, just like the conference. Good thing Lane is super loyal. Just ask Tennessee is another text we got a few minutes ago. Yeah, the Tennessee thing was interesting. And I got to tell you, I still haven't gotten a chance to sit down and watch it yet. But I do want to watch the Lane Kiffin 30 for 30. He tells the story. Look, I went back. I actually had the conversation about this weekend when I was in a conversation about Lane Kiffin with a dear friend of mine who is a Florida fan. I get it. I get the hate on Lane Kiffin. I do. He's a polarizing type of dude. You either love Joey Freshwater or you hate Lane Kiffin, and there's no way in between. I love Joey Freshwater. I find him entertaining as hell. I, at the time, I think was pretty mad at him about the Tennessee thing, but as time has gone by, I'm less mad about it now, because I get it, right? The dude got offered a job that he made clear was his dream job. He got offered a job that was made clear it was his dream job at USC. And those are the types of jobs that you get offered one time. Because even if it was to come again open 2, 4, 6, 8, years later, the reality is people in positions of power like that are going to look and say, screw that guy. Like, we gave him the opportunity and he said no, which tells us he said Tennessee was better. Screw that guy. I get it. I get why he left Tennessee. I get why he went against his word when he said, I'm here forever, and took the USC job. Dream job. Like, did he handle it the right way? Probably not. Do I fault the decision? No, not really. Not really. Now, I don't know that Lane Kiffin has expressed, end of my career loyalty to Ole Miss. And again, even if he has, if Florida is planning on making Lane Kiffin the highest paid head coach in college football, could you really fault him? I've said a lot of times, like, I am loyal to a fault to this radio station. But at the end of the day, there will come a point in time, who knows when it will be, but there will come a point in time where I will have to make a decision about my future, and it will be 1,000% financially driven. And I hope it's like Lane Kiffin, where it's somebody called me and offered me to make me the highest paid radio dude in America. That's unlikely. But like, if it was, I would say, I promise you I'd be here a long time. I have been here a long time, but these people want to pay me a stupid amount of money to do something that I think I'm pretty good at. So I got to go. I love you all. I'll come back and visit, but I got to go. Texas said, I always think it is funny when everyone slobbers all around Lane Kiffin, who didn't win at Tennessee, USC, or Ole Miss. I mean, he wins, but nothing meaningful. That is also from Buckeye Mike. Mike, again, like, I get it. But I would also say, do you not feel, even with the smack talk, and I don't know if you saw the smack talk after the game against Oklahoma, Lane Kiffin, as he walked off the field, and I know a lot of you look negatively upon this. I was like, okay, I get it. Lane Kiffin, when he was leaving the field and doing his post-game interview, started saying to, I forget the young lady that was doing the interview on the field, but he started saying, yeah, it's a lot quieter. I don't hear them chirping that much now. And as he was doing that, a cat wearing number 0 for Oklahoma came over to like dap him up and say good game. And he's like, yeah, this guy right here kept talking to me all game, telling me how we weren't going to score on their defense. I don't hear a lot of talk now. Pretty classic smack talk. And there were a lot of people who were like, oh, Lane, like, you're a college coach and he's a college player. You shouldn't be talking to the kid that way.
How can he be talking to a kid that way?
Yeah, like I said, you start making good-ass money in NIL, you're going to get treated like an adult. If you chirp at Lane and then Lane hangs a bunch of points on your ass, you better believe Lane going to chirp back. I have zero problems with it. None, not a 9, none at all. Issues. Have at it, Joey Freshwater. If the kid's chirping you up, chirping back. I'm good with that. My favorite thing was in the postgame.
As long as it's not lame. I mean, if it's lame.
Yeah, I mean, be fun. But I mean, look, to say that while the kid's right there next to you, hey, at least you have the rocks to do it, right? Now, we did go into the press conference and somebody was like, hey, and I forget the guy's name, but he's like, this kid, you talked about him. You good with that? And he's like, who's that? Number 0? Like, he didn't even give the kid his name. He just got told what his name was. And he was like, no, number 0. I got no problem with it. I think, however, and I said this, I had this concern a couple of weeks ago when Ole Miss lost their only game to Alabama. I said, or to Georgia, pardon me. I said, look, my only concern is, will Lane Kiffin regress to Tennessee Lane? Will he regress to USC Lane? And the reason I said all of that was because there were points in his past where Lane Kiffin, I think, let his ego get out ahead of himself as a head coach. I think he's matured past that. And I think you're seeing that. He's made some tough decisions with that football team, including switching and staying switched at his quarterback spot. And he's rolled out the next guy, and they rolled with it. I think Lane Kiffin is a more mature version of Joey Freshwater, but you're always going to have Lane at his core. That's just who he is. And I will tell you, there are some schools I don't think that would fit in with. I don't think Lane Kiffin would fit in at Penn State. Like, they're not a jokey, ha-ha fun school. They're a blue-collar, lunch-pail working man. We don't like to joke around the coal mines type of guy. You know where Lane Kiffin would fit in great? Florida, a school that like is just loosey-goosey fun all the time. I think he fit in great. You know where else Lane Kiffin fits in great? Ole Miss, where he just gets to run the place. And I think if Lane's going to be successful, he's got to run the place. And Lane, like Ole Miss, is going to let him do whatever. That being said, if Florida comes to call in and they say $16.5 million per year annually with a $80 million buyout, you gonna fault him if he goes? No, of course not. Now, you might dunk on Florida and say you're paying more money to a head coach that's never won anything than anybody's ever paid to a head coach before. But with what's been going on with Florida right now, do you blame him for rolling the dice? I can't. Let's see. Texas says 2 minutes away from getting to listen to you eat crow, but South Carolina failed, so today will suck as usual. That's from Dewey. Dewey, welcome back. I ate my crow back in hour number 1, and I will do it again now.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
That's what you consider
No.
what you did?
I did not choke on a crow like you wanted me to. But for a dude who takes great pride in knowing ball, yeah, I ate my crow. Here's my crow, Dewey. I'll go ahead and be wrong now just for you, Dewey. Just for you. On Friday, I said to South Carolina fans, find something better to do with your time on Saturday. Don't watch this game because I think Alabama's going to dog walk you in your old stadium. I think you're going to get absolutely devastated. My favorite 5-star bet of the weekend, and a bet that I did make, was Bama minus 11.5 on the road at South Carolina. In fact, I said to a number of people, that's my 5-star lock of the week. Got it wrong. Bama wins by 7, and it took them all 4 quarters to make that happen. But to just say that and to ignore the other 11 minutes of that segment where I said, if you want to make it a game, here's the list of things that have to happen. I gave you a list of them. Number 1, don't expect that your offensive line is just going to win a 1v1v1v1v1 straight 5 block set. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to get creative with your blocking schemes. You're going to have to throw stuff that you have not thrown at anybody else at Alabama to keep it close. Guess what they did? That's what they did. In fact, I even pulled a play out on the air. Third quarter, spot. Wide receiver in the slot on the right comes over to the left, gets out way past wide of the defensive end, and then sets as if he's going to run a little out route to pull the quarterback up. Soon as Lenoris takes the snap out of the shotgun, the wide receiver cracks down on the defensive end to hem him in so he can't set the edge. The tackle pulls around the blocking wide receiver to get up to the second level to take out the linebacker. Now it is a receiver and Lenoris on the option. If the quarterback dives up to take away the run, Lenoris has just got to drop it over his head. If the quarterback stays back to defend the wide receiver, Lenoris could just take off running. And he did, and it worked. We saw how many plays where a slot wide receiver motioned in and he set up as a blocking back off the guard or off the tackle, and they were doing all sorts of creative stuff. I said, you've got to come up with better creative blocking schemes that are exotic and wild to keep Alabama off base. They did that. Number 2, you've got to run Lenoris Sellers. Not as an emergency last option. It's got to be a design for him, whether it's designed into the pass play or just design runs or whatever. He ran 18 times. And I would say about a dozen of those minimum were not scrambles. They were designed, either designed RPOs, individual QB RPOs, or designed straight up design runs. They did that thing. I said on defense, your edge has to pin Ty Simpson into the pocket. Do not let him get outside wide of the tackle. If he does, you're cooked. Because he can throw on the run, not as well as, but close to Lenoris. If you let Ty Simpson get the edge, he'll cook you. And he did. And then the last thing I said was, you've got to play perfect. And I don't mean perfect as in not missing a play. I mean perfect as in if Bama drops an opportunity into the breadbasket, you have to take advantage of it. You have to. Because if you don't, and you give them multiple opportunities and second chances, they're going to get you. Well, go back and look at that game. I know off the top of my head, I know of 3 dropped interceptions. 3. Like, should have been picks. Not like, oh, it would have been a spectacular play. I mean, 1 in the end zone for sure, and 1 with Alabama coming out from the shadow of their own goalpost, where 2 defensive backs jumped into each other and cost you a pick. In fact, at one point, was it Jesse Palmer was on color for that game, and at one point, the one in the end zone, Palmer said, that's another missed opportunity. That's the second or third time that South Carolina could have had a turnover, and they took it away from themselves. Now, again, it's not easy. It's going to happen, especially when there's a ball, 1 receiver, 2 DBs, everybody trying to make a play. It's going to get pinged around a little bit. But there were at least 3, maybe 4 spots where South Carolina could have come up with a pick that would have changed the game. I genuinely think if one of those goes the other way, you win the game. If two of those go the other way, I know you win the game. If three of those go the other way, you blow them out, and we're all coming in here going, damn, Cocktober Surprise was fun. Not a doubt. But you missed it. And that's what I meant when I said you have to be perfect to win this game. You got the offensive line and the blocking schemes right. You took advantage of all of the weapons that Lenore Sellers offers as your quarterback. You set the edge and kept Ty Simpson largely pinned inside of the corners and never really let Jam Miller get comfortable. The only thing that you did not do was play flawless football when Alabama made a mistake. Not flawless football, period, end of discussion, just when Bama made mistakes. They made 3 or 4 that should have been turnovers. You didn't get any of them. At the end of the day, I was wrong because I said, I don't see how in week 8 or game 8, I don't see how I should expect all the things that I have been saying have been wrong for South Carolina in games 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Why would I believe that they will just all of the sudden change in week 8? There's no reason for me to believe that. Tigers don't change spots and Gamecocks don't change feathers, I guess, whatever.
Tigers have stripes.
Yeah, that's right. Leopards don't change spots. Tigers don't change stripes, and Gamecocks don't change feathers. But they did. Do any of you feel like the offense, I know you didn't, because the frustration that's been kicking in from Gamecock fans, who I've talked about since Saturday, the frustration that has been kicking in has largely been, yo, where TF was that the first 7 games? Where was that? You would have beat Missouri with that. Offense, defense, you'd have beat Missouri. Honestly, I don't think you'd have beat Vanderbilt, but I think you would have won. I think you'd have beat Oklahoma if you played that game. You just didn't. So where was that? So I was wrong, Dewey. I was wrong in that I said, I don't see why this list of things that if you do what Rob Brown's telling you to do, you can at least make a game of it. But you haven't done them for 7 games, so I'm not going to bet on you suddenly doing it in 8. They suddenly did it in 8. They just broke all this stuff out. I didn't have any reason to believe that they would. That's why I said there's no point in watching this game, because I assumed it was going to be another week of the Gamecocks running nose first into the wall, doing the same thing over and over, thinking, well, eventually I'll get to the other side. No, they didn't. This time they brought the jackhammer and the wrecking ball, and they knocked the wall down by doing the things that I said. If you want to keep it close, do these things. But I don't think you're going to do these things because you haven't done those things for 7 games. Why do I think you're going to suddenly do those things in week 8? They finally did the things in week 8, just like I said it would be. The game was close because they did those things. I said it wouldn't be close because they wouldn't do the things. But then they did the things, and it was close. The things I said will make the game close. You're welcome. You're welcome. Texas said, Brian Kelly to Penn State, book it. See, I had a Penn State fan tell me that over the weekend, Texter, and my response to them was, why would you want James Franklin replaced by James Franklin, but he's a hole? Why would you want to replace James Franklin with James Franklin, but he sucks? Not as a coach, as a person, and also maybe a little as a coach. Why is that the trigger? If I'm them, if I'm Penn State, I don't know who I'm swinging for, but it ain't the guy who has not won a damn thing at the 2 most you should be able to win everything schools in college football, and I'm going to bring him to Penn State where we ain't won anything in a dozen years? Nah, that ain't it. Finally, Texas said it's going to be interesting to see which job Nick Saban picks. We're going to talk about that later in the week because Alonzo and I had a discussion about that last week and then this week and then over the weekend. We'll get to that because that is a wild card that's in play. Would Nick come back? I don't think he would. But we'll talk about it later in the week and what impact that might have. When we come back, let's get some more NFL news and notes. Anything you want to get to, it is your day on a, actually Monday here on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. I'm going to hit the restroom. Y'all stay right there. We'll be right back. a couple of stories out of the NFL I'd like to get to real quick. Both of them are sound clipped based. Let me start with this one. I got to give credit to Raheem Morris, the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Not for the game, obviously. They lost to the Dolphins. And I don't care if you were starting Kirk Cousins in his first start, and I don't care that you were missing Drake London, who has been kind of a breakout star for you.
Why was Kirk Cousins starting?
Michael Penix Jr. was dinged up, was the story we got.
It was not a benching?
No, it was not a benching. Michael Penix Jr. was dinged up, so they went with Kirk Cousins. Kirk was not good, not bad. He just kind of was, quarterback getting his first start on the season. That's not what I'm giving credit to. What I want to give credit to Raheem Morris for is speed running every NFL head coaching cliche in one quick post-game interview.
Raheem, another tough one. I don't know. I'm going to let you explain that one. I would have had a tough time explaining it myself.
Yeah, we got beat by the better team today. They came out, they were more physical. They ran the football. We were not able to stop the run. At the end there, it got out of hand. It turns into those games, and you can't win those games that way. You can't come out that way to play, and we did. And this game, like I told you, man, you get humbled quickly in this game, and that was one of those days.
The physicality of the game, it's back-to-back weeks, or I know that's something you want to – is that something you can change from a physicality standpoint to make sure you win the line of scrimmage?
You certainly can. You got to go out and make a decision, and we did not make a decision today, and we got to change that next week.
All right. When you begin to think about all the things that are going to be – now it's a circle the wagons moment, because everybody's going to tell you how bad you guys are and how people should lose their jobs and all that kind of stuff. How do you handle that situation?
You can't ride the emotional roller coaster. You got to go out and make great decisions. You got to go out and get better. You got to get these guys better. We're going to get ready to play a tough team next week.
I don't even know if you had enough to be able to even evaluate how Kirk played for you today. You just didn't have the football very much.
We got to go out and play better. We got to find ways to get the ball back. We got to find ways to move the ball. We got to find ways to convert on third down, to keep the ball. We got to find ways to stop them on third down. None of those things happened today. Awful day, tough day.
Well, the conversation, your quarterback didn't play. You had your best receiver out in Drake London. Divine Diablo didn't play, and it all seemed like that all affected you. Do you feel like that was part of the mix?
Yeah, nobody cares. Okay. That's not very part of it. You got to go out there, next man up mentality, and try to go out there and get a win.
I mean, my dude hit every head coaching cliche in 2 minutes.
All right, I have a question
Impressive.
for you, because I didn't do this. In college, did you take any of the courses taught by coaches?
No, here's the thing. I think it's
because I'm guessing that's where they learn this. That one of those classes, the sports something taught by the head coach of the football team or the basketball team, they're actually teaching this. That's what I think they're doing.
I will say this. I think that how once a year we always land on the conversation about how every dude has an innate knowledge. It's never verbally spoken to us about the correct urinal to use. Like, it's just in there. We just know it. You go into the bathroom, there's 5. If a guy's on the left, you go far right. If there's a guy in the middle, it's far left or far right. If there's a guy that is the second to the left, you go far right. If there's 2 guys and the only one that's open is, like, we know all the rules. Nobody ever teaches us that. It's just kind of combination of like seeing people do it / innate feeling. It's just what we do. I think it's kind of that. I don't think you have to get taught all the cliches. I think you just pick them up over time, and you learn that if I give all the cliches, I don't actually have to like answer or be accountable.
This is why I skip past the sideline interviews most of the time.
It's cliches.
Yeah, because that's all these coaches are saying. And
the only ones I don't are Kurt Cignetti, Lane Kiffin. That's it. That's the list. That's a list of sideline interviews that are worth listening to. Dan Lanning sometimes, which, by the way, the Grateful Dead game was freaking awesome. Speaking of football dudes, you know who is my favorite football dude right now? Carly Irsay Gordon. She is the daughter of Jim Irsay. She is now the de facto owner, not de facto. She is one of the owners of the Indianapolis Colts. She is now the most hands-on owner of the Colts.
Female Jerry Jones.
So, no. And here's why. Here's why no. Carly Irsay Gordon has gotten known this year for something she has been doing for a very long time. But now that she is the owner and decision maker, obviously, it stands out. Carly Irsay Gordon is on the sideline of every Colts game, and she wears a headset, so she's listening to the communications between the coaches and the players. And she has her little notepad, and she stands there with a pen, and she writes and she takes notes. And so after the Colts, who, by the way, still have the best record in the NFL, while the Colts were doing their thing again this weekend, and Carly Irsay Gordon was being asked questions after the game because, like every owner, she does post-game press conferences when called upon. She was asked why, and she gave my favorite answer of any owner who has been hands-on when asked Why are you involved here?
I need to learn more about this. I need to be able to say, is this person full of BS? Do they even know what they're talking about? And I think one of the things that being on the headset has really helped me learn is, to the question earlier, it's such a complex organism, a football team and how it operates. And on game day, and you could say, oh, that person ran that route wrong. When you learn to find, oh, someone tagged the wrong wide receiver, and it wasn't really the player's fault. It was the person that called it. So, and it's never, I think that's been a very valuable, because it also helps us be able to know, where do we need to make tweaks? What resources do we need? What do we need to fix? So much of it comes down to just how we operate and how things work. And the headsets are really, I wish more, I would suggest it for anyone else that has to pay coaches and GMs millions and millions of dollars. It helps you make a less expensive mistake potentially.
Totally good with it. Totally good with it. Because to me, there is a difference between, because Lonzo's not the first person I've heard her. In fact, I heard her referred to over the weekend as, and I quote, Lady Jerry Jones. I disagree wholeheartly.
By the way, I don't have a problem with her being out there. I don't have a problem with Jerry Jones doing what he does. He owns the team. He can do whatever he wants. It's really cool that a video of her pops up like once every day of her doing that. And we'll see how much it helps her if she ever has to fire someone. Right now, things are looking awful good, so you don't have to worry about that.
So I actually not only don't have a problem, I actually approve of it. And here's why. When we say hands-on owners, obviously Jerry Jones comes to the front of the brain. Obviously, up until, I would argue, this year, David Tepper was in that mix. There are a few of them that jump off the page at you. I do not have an issue with an owner who is involved in the process. I have an issue with owners who are the process. There's a difference. Involved in the process, sure. Jerry's involved in the process. Jerry is the process. That's why he's the general manager. He is the process at this point. And you're right. Jerry Jones can do whatever the hell he wants with the Dallas Cowboys. It is his team. And as a non-Cowboys fan, go on, Jerry. Go on. Keep doing what you're doing, Big Daddy. I'm happy for you, Jerry. Glad you feel good about your life. I'm here for it. The difference is Jerry Jones looks around and he goes, look at me. I'm the football guy now. I'm the captain now. That's what Jerry does. What I think Caitlin Irsay-Gordon is doing is saying, look, at the end of every month, I got to strike a check to everybody in this building. I'm the one who pays millions of dollars to make sure that everything's going right. She didn't say, I want to have the headset on so I can overturn a decision, so I can tell, the offensive coordinator, I don't like that call, change it up. I don't have a headset on so that I can go down to practice with a play I drew up on a cocktail napkin and said, you will run this play this weekend because I want to see what it looks like. I'm not any of that. I just want to be able to say, hey, I've been listening to you. And when we have our end of week or end of month or end of year conversations with owners, with general managers, with head coaches, with players, with quarterbacks, whatever, I can say, hey, I listen every game. I think you're full of crap. I think you're full of crap. She didn't say, I have the headset on so I can get directly involved. She said, I have the headset on so I can tell when people who are involved are full of crap. And I think that's great. There is a difference between, and we can draw a direct comparison, in this case, an exact direct comparison to the great one and I. I have worked with bosses who never listened to the show. They just didn't listen to the show. And we never got feedback from them. I have worked with bosses who didn't just listen to the show, but every day they would come into the office, into the studio during the show, and they would say, I want you to do this next. I want you to talk about this next. I want you to make this your next subject. And I have worked, as I do now, for bosses who listen to the show and they give feedback and they say, here's what I think you can work on and here's what I think you're doing great and whatever. And they help you shape the product overall. I think that's Carly.
And it's really more about tweaking what you're already doing more so than I want you to talk about this.
I think it's that.
Yeah.
I also think it is to some degree accountability, right? Because if he says, hey, we want you to focus more on this, then he's listening to make sure that when I go in there and he says, did you focus more on this? And I say no or yes, I'm telling the truth. I'm not full of crap. There is a difference between I am listening in so I can be part of the process versus I am the process. David Tepper for years was the process. And he hired general managers, Scott Fitterer, who were yes men so that he could stay the process. And anybody who tried to go against the process would get rattled, tattletaled on. Jerry Jones doesn't even hire yes men. He just made himself his own yes man. He is the process. There is a difference between owner who is the process and owner who is part of the process. I think this is great from Carly Ersay-Gordon. I think it's great. I think she's handling it exactly the right way. I'm involved. I'm there. I'm listening, but I'm not going to go hands-on to the standpoint of making football decisions. I'm going to let the football dudes make the football decisions. And if the football dudes make bad football decisions because I'm listening and paying attention, I'll get it. Let me give you one more clip before we run to the break, if you don't mind, mainly because I want to be able to put this one to bed. The most phallically named man in the NFL, Woody Johnson, last week had some words about his quarterback, Justin Fields. In fact, blamed the Jets' failure on him. And that is where American hero Alex Smith stepped onto the television stage this weekend.
I know you know him. I know you're close to this, so I get it. Listen, this is absurd, right? You're true. It's right. It's rock bottom, but it's rock bottom because of this guy, right? Yep. Listen, it is impossible to overcome dysfunctional ownership, and this is the definition of it. Woody Johnson. Listen, I lived it. Trust me, I know. How many head coaches and quarterbacks is this guy mowed through, right? How many of them are we going to, and he drove the bus over this kid right here. Listen, Sam Darnold, he looks pretty good right now, right? Does. Hey, Robert Saleh coaching his butt off in San Francisco. Weird. Aaron Rodgers winning a lot of games all of a sudden, right? Hey, maybe the problem is you, Woody, right? Maybe we look in the mirror. You have the longest playoff drought in all of the NFL. And right? All sports. Listen, it starts at the top and it trickles down, and this is cowardly. This is an owner that's deflecting because his organization is terrible, and he drove the bus over a 26-year-old quarterback, right over the back of him. I'm not going to justify. I don't think Justin Fields has played great at all this season. You're telling me he's the only problem? You don't have a win. It's everywhere. The head coach is the problem. Yep. The coordinators are the problem. Yep. This entire roster is the problem. And to point it at this kid is ridiculous. But in the middle of the season, by the way, he's wearing the jersey today. He is starting quarterback for your football team. Your jersey. Yeah, how are you going to look this kid in the eye in the locker room?
Beautiful. Thank you, Alex. Thank you. And again, to go back to what we were talking about a minute ago, because Joey B just said the same thing. I love this with one caveat. Her microphone stays off because that's the line between this and ownership meddling. Exactly. You know what I haven't heard one time out of Carly Ersay-Gordon? I haven't heard her thoughts on Danny Dimes. And granted, it's probably easier when you're owner and your team's 7-1 than it is when you're 3-4 and out of a playoff spot. But I haven't heard her thoughts on Steichen or Danny Dimes or Anthony Richardson or Jonathan Taylor or the offensive or defensive lines. I've heard none of that. She's been, I'm listening, I'm hands-on, I'm taking notice, I'm paying attention, and at the end of the year, I will make sure that what people are telling me in the office is the same as what I was seeing on Sundays on the football field. Woody Johnson, on the other hand, puts his grubby little fingers into everything because much like Jerry Jones, he's the smartest guy in every room. He was born on third base thinking he hit a triple, and because of that, he's better than everybody. And the result is the Jets have stunk forever, and then he's going to go blame it on their 26-year-old quarterback who just got there. That's the spot. Don't get me wrong, Justin Fields has not been the guy I had hoped he was going to be this year. But also, how much of that has to go with the Jets stink? Top to bottom, left to right, up and down, back and forth, they suck. And it all circles back to him. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Jerry Jones is a great man and should continue doing what he does. Here's the thing, Jim. He believes that. Sarcastic. No, I know he is. I know he is. That's why I'm saying. Sarcasm aside, Jerry Jones believes that.
Jerry Jones is awesome in the Dr. Pepper commercial.
Oh, for sure.
You do know the Dr. Pepper commercial.
The fans vote commercial, but they're in Pro Town.
This is Pro Town.
Yeah.
It's like
kickoff. We don't kick off till Sunday. 1,000%.
Well, how much you got paid for that?
Not nothing. A 1,000%, dude. Here's the thing, though, that I would make the argument, and this is just how I view the situation. If you and I were born the heir to the Johnson & Johnson throne and effectively inherited an NFL team, the reality of the situation is most of the things that I know and like subjects that I consider myself at least with a moderate level of aptitude, because I don't think there's a lot I'm an expert at. Most of the things that I learn because I was challenged to learn them somehow. And I love them dearly. I don't know that someone in the position of inheriting an NFL team, and I'm not saying none of them, but like, I can't imagine there's a high percentage of owners who inherited a team that like learned the gritty of football, like the X's and O's, like the nasty part of football that you have to learn to be effective. I think I'm not saying the number is 0, but I'm saying especially the outspoken one.
Look what's on my shirt.
Again, I'm not saying 0. Some of them have them.
I do believe that he inherited that and has continued on what his dad did and has and has went.
And I would also argue that is why if we went outside and did a poll, I bet we'd find 0% of people know the owner's name of the Chiefs. That's good. That's good. Like Jim Irsay was hands-on and actively involved.
Was on a trophy. You might know.
Maybe, but also probably not. I think a lot of people knew Jim Irsay, and I would also say, while Jim Irsay was not the worst owner, Jim Irsay was probably way too hands-on.
Yeah, he was also in trouble a lot.
100%.
That's why people know who he is, because of arrests.
I think that's probably fair. Yeah. I think Jim Irsay is probably more known for his issues than he was but he also wasn't a hands-on owner. I think Carly Irsay-Gordon.
He had a band too, right?
He did.
Yeah.
And he's a good guitar player from what I understand. Carly Irsay-Gordon, I think, has a unique opportunity in that she firsthand, being close to the football team while Pops was running it, firsthand probably, if she's willing to say so, probably got to see what being too hands-on with a team looks like. I don't like that would be the best thing for the Cowboys is if Stephen Jones, when he finally takes over, when the crypt keeper calls and Jerry's gone, if Stephen went, I saw how my dad ran it and it didn't work out, so I'm not going to do it that way. But at the same time, I doubt it. We'll see. But you can point out today, the owners today that are bad for bad reasons today. And I think that she is, right now, I have zero problem with her. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Thanks to Jon Blau for joining us an hour ago. If you missed that, it was in the 8:40 segment, third hour of the show. That'll be posted right after the show is over. We talked to Jon about the Clemson bye week, quiet bye week. Brought this up to Jon. I said, look, man, I don't really hear a lot. And it's a weird time. It's a weird bye week to not hear much about the Clemson Tigers because you don't know who the starting quarterback is this weekend against the Duke Blue Devils. And as mentioned, brought this up to Jon Blau. This is a Duke Blue Devil team that ain't bad, Chief. It ain't bad. They're 3-1 in conference. They're 4-3 overall. 2 of the 3 losses were to number 11 Illinois, who, again, dropped another one. Got hammered in another one since then. But Illinois, top 11 team. And to number 12, Georgia Tech, who is now top 8 Georgia Tech and hasn't lost a game. The only dumb loss they had was at Tulane. And A, that was at Tulane. And B, Tulane is a team that is really interesting. Now, they've probably done enough damage at this point that I do wonder if Tulane, who probably 2-3 weeks ago, you're like, okay, maybe that's a playoff team. They still only have 1 loss, and that loss was on the road at Ole Miss. Now, granted, outside of Duke, they haven't really played anybody else, but they played some power teams, and they've had 1 loss. Point is, it's a bad loss for Duke, but it's like, of losses to G5 teams, it ain't close to the worst of the G5 losses so far. So in a week where you've got Darian Mensah, who is quarterbacking a 3-loss team, 2 of which were to top 11 teams, 1 of which was to one of the best, maybe 2 or 3 G5 teams out there, and for a team that has beaten beaten on the road at Cal, 45-21. On the road at Syracuse, 38-3. Against NC State, 45-33. Like, they played 3 power games, and they've dominated those 3 power games outside of the 2 that they lost to top 12 teams, top 11 teams. This Duke team's good. They've got numbers in them. And so in a week where we on Monday don't know who the starting quarterback is on Saturday, I would have thought there would have been some news. There would have been some notes. There would have been some stuff coming up out of Clemson, South Carolina. Wildly quiet week on the bye week. And Jon Blau pointed out the same thing. He said, we kind of thought we'd hear something about Cade, kind of thought we'd hear something about Vizina, kind of thought we'd hear something about the defense. He said we didn't even hear a conversation out of Tom Allen, which is unusual. So anyway, if you missed that interview, it'll be posted right after the show is over. Couple of other stories we did not get to very quickly. The NCAA now owes a former college football player and his wife $18 million. And a decision that was made right up the road in Orangeburg, South Carolina. A jury found the NCAA was negligent in failing to warn players about the long-term effects of concussions. There was a civil trial that wrapped up late last week. In that trial, Orangeburg County jurors awarded $10 million to 68-year-old Robert Gaithers, who played at South Carolina State University from 1977 to 1980 as a defensive end. His wife, Deborah, was awarded $8 million, according to a court document. A physician diagnosed Robert Gaithers with dementia several years ago, according to multiple outlets, and Gaithers now has trouble with day-to-day tasks such as dressing himself and helping to make meals. Other physicians who testified at the trial said Gaithers displays symptoms of chronic traumatic encephalopathy. I practice saying this word. CTE. He's got CTE. It is a degenerative brain disease found in former football players who received repeated blows to the head while playing. However, CTE, as of today, CTE cannot be diagnosed until the individual is deceased. So we can say we have symptoms of CTE, but you can't definitively say this person has CTE. So all you can do is say there's a bunch of symptoms of it. And apparently these physicians made an argument that enough symptoms are seen that it is presumptive that he has CTE, and CTE can lead to dementia and other mental issues later on down the line. Gaithers' attorney, Bakari Sellers, alleged the NCAA knew about concussion risk since the 1930s, but did not tell coaches or players about those risks until later after Gaithers' career was over. Sellers told jurors, quote, all of the information they knew they withheld, and added that they kept that information, quote, because their job was to keep the boys safe, end quote. The verdict can and will, according to the NCAA, via a spokesperson, be appealed. The NCAA said Saturday that it disagreed with the verdict and that it was, quote, prepared to pursue our rights on post-trial motions and on appeal if necessary. Johnson said the NCAA has prevailed in every other jury trial around the country on these issues, and that the South Carolina State team, quote, followed the knowledge that existed at the time, and college football did not cause Mr. Gaithers lifelong health problems, end quote. NCAA trial attorney Andy Fletcher said at the trial that Robert Gaithers has several health conditions that influence dementia-like symptoms, and that the NCAA's football rules committee is composed of representatives of member schools that could propose rules. He said, quote, there's going to be head hits. That's inherent to the game. You can't take head hits out of football, end quote. That was part of the closing arguments from the defense side of this. Look, I'm very interested to see what this appeal says. I'm interested to see what this appeal says, because if the NCAA wins on appeal, okay, that is going to be some level of precedent, at least in this state. We'll see if that happens state to state to state to state. If the appeal is overturned, and if it is decided that the NCAA owes Robert Gaithers $10 million and his wife $8 million, 18 on the hook total, it is going to open up a floodgate of former players, specifically those who are clearly and have been diagnosed with dementia and other mental illnesses later in life that are connected to CTE. If they lose this appeal, effectively what it is saying is that at least one jury here in South Carolina says it has been proven beyond a doubt that the NCAA at the time, this is in 1977, at the time knew that concussions and head injuries sustained playing football were indeed a lifelong danger and did not tell that to players. And if they approve $18 million to a player in 1977, do you think there weren't a handful of players from before that? And there won't be a handful of players from 1977 until what? 10 years ago, 8 years ago, that are going to come out of the woodworks going, yeah, me too, bud. Me too. I could use about 18 million. I could use 10 and my wife 8 because she's got to take care of me now. Of course that's going to happen. And as much as we've talked about NIL, as much as we talked about rev share, all of that money, as I have said, all that money's there. It's already in a budget. It's just it's always gone to other places, and now it's got to go to the players. There's not what could be hundreds of millions of dollars in lawsuits against the NCAA. That money doesn't exist. That money's not in the budget from the NCAA or anybody else. You were talking about years of the entire TV contract of the college football playoff to pay off what could be an avalanche of CTE lawsuits against the NCAA if this appeal does not play out. So that'll be interesting. Hey, real quick before we go to what the X is going on, because Ross Dellinger just posted something very funny, and we will talk about this tomorrow. Apparently, during Saturday's loss to Texas A&M, and this is from Ross Dellinger, posted on yahoosports.com. Apparently, LSU school officials were making the rounds in luxury box seats at the game on Saturday, asking boosters, would you be willing to make a donation to the Fire Brian Kelly buyout fund?
Did they have a box, or did they have that handheld thing where you just tap your card? Maybe.
I don't know, man.
They're walking around with that. The chip didn't work here. Just insert it.
Apparently, there was some, here we go. Apparently, on Sunday, they were having the conversations, and there were discussions as high as at the governor's mansion about whether or not they could fire Brian Kelly. And apparently, at least some athletic director staff or athletic department staff was going around Saturday asking boosters at the game, do you want to throw a few bucks into the pot to fire Brian Kelly tomorrow? And they did it, which means that at least some people said, yeah, I paid for a box, but here's another $100 to the Get Brian Kelly's Ass Out of Baton Rouge fund. I love college football. It is the dumbest thing in the world that I love this much.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
All right, quite a few things here. We'll see how many we can get to. The first thing that's Xing is Austin Reeves.
Austin Reeves is Xing because in spite of the fact that there was no LeBron James and no Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves said, y'all don't need them jokers. You got me. Austin Reeves went off for a career-high 51 points in a win over Sacramento.
Also 11 rebounds, 9 assists, and six triples, 6 threes.
Austin Reeves, noted NBA icon.
That's our guy. We
love that guy.
Austin Reeves.
Love that guy. Bulldog.
The next thing that's Xing is Chris Jericho.
Jericho is Xing. I don't know if something happened that is specifically why, but Jericho is Xing because I assume there was a WWE vignette that was aired on their social media channel on Saturday. I didn't see any more from the weekend, but there was one where it just showed a guy in suit pants and shoes. It just showed the shoes walking, and then it cut.
Now there's one with jeans. And so people are speculating on who it is.
Yeah.
That first one, that's Gunther. That
was my thought too.
Yeah, we've seen him firsthand. That's Gunther.
Yeah.
But this latest one kind of looks like Jericho. So who knows? Maybe multiple returns. People are also speculating it's some sort of faction.
Yeah, I'm going with it's not Jericho primarily because he is still, as far as I know, under contract with AEW.
I'm not so sure about that.
I believe that he is not for much longer, but long enough that he probably is in a spot where now they could just film a vignette and not say who it is, and then later be like, oh, it totally was Jericho. Yeah. But I don't know.
I don't think it's the same guy in each of the videos. So
I agree, but I would also say it's real dumb if you're WWE, because if you do that, you tease him, and then Tony goes to him and goes, tell you what, Jay, we'll give you $2 million more to stay with us. And Jericho goes, yeah, that's worth it. I'll finish my run here.
Right. That's the thing. You film several different ones. You never have to. Yeah. Whoever you say it is, that's who it is.
Yep.
All right. The next thing that's Xing is Dave Canales.
Dave Canales Xing because the Carolina Panthers got their asses whipped yesterday. And it was not good. No Bryce Young, and the offense just went absolutely to dog crap yesterday. And so there's a bunch of thoughts now that Dave Canales, who, by the way, his odds to be the next coach fired creeped up over the weekend. Not dramatically, but enough to notice.
All right. From what I can tell, the major reason why he's Xing is because he didn't play Rico Dowdle.
12 carries for Chuba Hubbard, 8 for Rico Dowdle. Here's the thing,
he's had to defend why he's doing it.
Yeah, I will. As much as I think this game was an abject failure, I will defend it. Yes, Rico should have had more carries than Chuba Hubbard, but the Bills defense was keyed in on Rico Dowdle. It was obvious to see that. And number two, you got behind so fast, so early. If you wanted any chance to make anything happen, even without BY, you had to throw the football. Like, it sucks, but that's football,
I don't know. You probably, with the way Andy Dalton was playing, handing the ball off to Rico Dowdle was probably your best move.
I mean, I get it, but at the same time, like, you are now talking about you're down 24 and you're grinding up the clock more than Buffalo. You're doing their job for them.
All right.
That just is what it is.
The next thing that's Xing is Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett Xing because, Myles, I don't feel bad for you.
Yeah,
Threw a tantrum on the sideline, throwing his helmet around, stomping around, like clearly wants out of Cleveland, except for Myles. You just signed the biggest contract in NFL history, non-quarterback, to stay in Cleveland. Screw you, buddy. Like, you signed the contract. You know I'm player empowerment all the time, and there have been plenty of guys under contract that I go, let that guy go. Let my people go. This ain't it, Myles. You just signed the longest contract ever. You know this team was going to stink. You decided to stay on it. You're making $40 million to play this year. No one feels bad for you, Myles.
And finally, the last thing that is Xing is Nick Mangold.
Yes, Nick Mangold, the I would say legendary offensive lineman for the New York Football Jets. He was a fun, like, that dude was fun to watch. You know what he was? He
also played for Ohio State. So,
sure did.
Yeah.
He was Kyle Turley without the crazy. I love Nick Mangold. He's going to go up, passing away at, I believe, 44.
I think he's 41.
Or 41 years of age because of a fast progressing kidney disease that he was fighting from. Went from like a week ago asking for a kidney donation to passing away over the weekend. I will say this. I wasn't going to necessarily play it or anything. Did you see Rex Ryan reacting to it? Rex broke. He was on air when they found out, and he broke. That's how you know that Nick Mangold was a dude.
This is one of those guys that everyone seemed to like.
Yeah.
And he was also a great player, too. On top
when
of that.
you could play that absolute menace to society across the offensive line, and people still feel this way about you, like, that's a dude, man. That's a dude. RIP Nick Mangold, a legend. Coming up tomorrow on the show, we got a lot more we're going to get to, a lot more NFL breakdown, some more college reaction, and more. He's Lonzo. I'm Rob. Have a great rest of your day. See you back here tomorrow on The Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Later.
You sick freak.
Yeah. All right, dudes and dudettes, you're all amazing people. I'm glad you are here. Thank you for being a part of our dumb little online community that we love so much.
You guys are not dumb. That's not what he meant by.
No, just the community at large is. And I should say it because I'm in charge of it. So it's dumb. All right. Thanks for being here. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. A lot more football breakdown and talk tomorrow on the show. So make sure you come back. Tell your friends about us. Help us grow our dumb little online community. Have a great day. Goodbye.